Welcome into the show. This is Jono.
And this is Micah, and you're listening to Medium Retro.
Micah Thomas, we're doing it, man.
Jono, we did it. We're doing it. We're going to do it. All of those.
All of it.
Mm-hmm. Past, present, future.
And we're in person again.
In person. We both don't have COVID.
We don't have COVID. We got positive results because we got negative tests.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. And this episode requires us to be in person.
Yeah, it does.
Because this is it's actually a two-parter. Because we're going to be talking about Ocarina of Time, the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
One of my favorite games, one of your favorite games. If you're a gamer and you played it, probably one of your favorite games too.
It's one of the most legendary games of all time, one of the most beloved. And we're doing this in two parts because it is such a massive game. This would have been like a 5-hour episode.
Yeah, easily.
It's just too long. And there's just so much content we didn't want to have to cut any out. So today we're doing Ocarina of Time, Part 1. We're going to basically go through all of our normal game facts and all of that good stuff. Then start with the walkthrough leading up till about halfway through the game to a major turning point. And then the subsequent episode, we will dig through the rest of the game. So, well, anyway, that is what we're talking about today. And we really thank you guys for listening in to Medium Retro, your weekly dose of all things retro gaming. And this is a friendly reminder to check out our Patreon by going to mediumretro.com or just searching for us on patreon.com, and then leave us reviews on your favorite podcast apps and YouTube if you listen there.
Do it. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitch and Twitter at Medium Retro and at Instagram, Medium Retro Podcast. In addition, like you said, YouTube us. We're on there. But yeah, send us some comments, send us some likes. Let us give us something to read on the show. It'll be fun.
Yes, it will be fun.
Twill.
Absolutely. When we eventually get some video going, which, I think it's just like an ongoing joke now that we say this because it never happens. Right before the show, though, we were talking about a Zoom incident that I had at work recently.
Yes, the infamous Zoom incidences. But if you've been Zooming for work, you've probably done something embarrassing by accident. Mm-hmm. Maybe you turned your camera on when you thought you were eating oatmeal by yourself. Who knows,
No one wants to watch another person eat oatmeal.
Well, I'll definitely say that, for my Zoom classes, a lot of times I'm eating breakfast while I'm, at the beginning of the class. That's usually why my, camera's off until I get a little bit further in. So
yeah. See, my incident, it involved me thinking I was on mute and then breaking wind quite loudly.
Oh, man. I would be very interested to know if anybody caught that. But, maybe they did.
I smirked for a second until I realized it wasn't muted, and then I had to stay stone-faced as long as I could. But that, honestly, realizing that I wasn't muted only made me want to laugh harder. So it was a moment. It was a moment of Zoom world that we live in.
Well, damn. Wish I could have been there for that one. On that call.
Yes. I'm sorry. You wish you would have seen that?
Yeah, it would have been great.
I wish I would have seen like a friend do that too, knowing there's like 10 other people who also would have seen it, who that person really wouldn't have wanted that to happen,
Yeah, totally. That would have been great.
Well, I'm pretty thirsty. What about you?
I feel the thirst, as it were. So
shall we quench?
Yeah, let's quench this with this delicious looking Denver Beer Co. Tart Delight. Tell me about this beer, Jono.
Well, I was in Mexico recently on a very last second vacation, and had that not happened, I would have been in Florida. So I'm feeling these like neon pinks and bright greens on the can, and Tart Delight citrus sour. That just it called to me when I was at the store today.
Yeah, it did. This describes my type exactly. Not really.
The Tart Delight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Citrus and sour. Now as far as beer types go, though, this is definitely something I'm interested to try.
Cool. Well, let's crack these bad boys. Not our finest work.
It was a little bit of an echo. The thing is, though, I could always go back and edit these, but I never do.
No, we don't want to. We only want to share our perfect cracks. We don't want to fake those.
Yeah, dude. No faking. It's all real.
If we fail, then the audience must know.
Mm-hmm. Well, cheers, Jono.
Cheers.
Delicious beverage. That's tasty.
Woo! It's like
tart.
Salty almost.
Yeah. I definitely get the the brininess,
Yeah.
as it were.
It's not quite as sour as I would have thought. It's more like if you took a Corona or like a Sol, like a Mexican lager, put an extra full, like a full squeeze of a lime, like a full lime, and then you sprinkled some salt in there. That's what I'm getting out of this.
No, I definitely see that. And also I wasn't sure if it's not as tart as I thought it was going to be. Also, yesterday I was eating lemon heads all day while I was playing Zelda, and my taste buds are still fucked. Lemon heads will do it to you.
Lemon heads will do it to you, kind of like warheads used to.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, pucker face.
Kind of like a fizzy marg. Bring your pups along.
That's what I was just gonna read. It says kind of like a fizzy marg. I kind of get that.
Yeah, hell yeah. Tart delight. Thank you, Denver Beer Co.
It says it tart tickles on your tongue. So I kind of like it. Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I think on a warm summer day, this would be delightful.
Yeah, totally. In all honesty, this is definitely one that you want to drop a little citrus in if you got it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Cool, man. So before we get in to the main part of the show, which is Ocarina of Time, Part 1, we have a little opening segment today, and we are doing Life Swap, the one and only. Life Swap. If you traded places with a character from a classic video game, who would it be and why? Now, I know I can remember the two that I chose. This is the third time we've done this. I chose Professor Layton, who I think is the ultimate answer for me.
Yes.
Then Master Chief. And now would you like me to go first for my third?
Well, I'm just going to say real quick, from what I remember, I chose a child of the forest, a Deku child, not the Deku shrubs. Anyway, yeah, why don't you go first? Why don't you launch us into
this? So you were a Kokiri child. Somebody's going to be so mad that we're butchering how to pronounce this name right off the bat.
Yeah, sorry, Kisses. We read this when we were children. We didn't actually have anybody from Nintendo telling us how to pronounce it.
This is true. What was your second one?
I think I said a villager from Animal Crossing was my second one, because I like the island.
Okay, so for this episode, I kind of cheated a little bit because I've never beaten this game. I've only played very little bit of it, actually.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like a god. But it's Kid Icarus.
Oh.
Greek god. And the reason I chose Kid Icarus is because he can fly, and he's youthful. And so, if I could gain back some years and I could fly, because flying has always been my, number one superpower by far.
I mean, it kind of is the obvious choice. If you're going to have one, that's kind of the best one.
I'd also like to go back 5 minutes in time. That's it, 5 minutes. You can't abuse that too much, but you can get super wealthy, and you can pretty much do anything you want in life if you can go back 5 minutes in time.
Yeah, you could really do a lot with that. That'd be fun. That'd be interesting. Well, solid. Good answer. I like it. I've never played Kid Icarus, but it's been on my list of games that I've been intending to check out. If only because, it's association with Super Smash Brothers these days.
I mean, we should definitely do that episode. It's one of those games that is known as a classic Nintendo game, but there hasn't been a relevant Kid Icarus game in a long time. I know they made one for the 3DS, but it's not like that was a big deal.
Yeah, seriously. We could do Kid Icarus / Ice Climbers. Could be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. For mine, I chose Kirby.
I almost did Kirby because of the flying.
You can fly. You can get various superpowers. You might feel a little bit guilty about eating other sentient beings. But also, you just get to eat all the time. And what's better than flying and eating? I don't know. Kirby.
I mean,
for me.
We eat sentient beings all the time.
Well,
not when they're living. We don't just walk up and inhale them. But.
True, but, how aware are they? Still debatable.
It's true.
I don't knowingly eat dolphins or elephants because I, think that would be horrendous. But also, I don't know. Maybe you have a good point.
Well, a cow's not trying to kill us, though, and in Kirby, they're trying to hurt him.
Yeah, so it's probably tit for tat,
Or tat for tit, I don't know.
Hell yeah.
Cool, man. Well, that was Life Swap, the one and only.
Super cool.
Super cool. And, if you guys out there have any opening segment or suggestions of things like that, we'd be open to it. We got, our Rolodex of things, We keep it on our desk and we flip through it before the episode with our fingers.
We do. It's physically in front of us right now.
Because we like to feel things.
Feeling is important.
Yes. When you don't have emotions, you actually have to touch things.
That's actually true. That's actually very true.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. I didn't learn that till late into my life. I don't know what that means. You can interpret it as you want. All right, man.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Let's.
Okay, it is time for the meat and the potatoes.
Yes.
And so for the background, neither of us chose it. The game chose us.
Yeah, I was gonna say it chose us for sure.
It's a game if you grew up in our time frame. I'm 33.
I'm 32.
Soon to be 33 though, right? When's your day?
In May.
Oh, I thought it was like in February for some reason.
Nah, it's mid-May, so I'm scared, but it's gonna be fun.
Yes. Be afraid. Hey, the world might be a little bit normal by then. So yes, when you're our age though, this was like the biggest game growing up.
Mm-hmm.
It was a massive, massive deal when it came out. Probably the most obsessed I was with a game in my entire childhood was Ocarina of Time.
I would say that out of all the video games I've ever become obsessed with, this is number one for sure.
Yeah, and I think when we decided to start this show, we both knew we would eventually do an episode. It's kind of something, it's almost sad that we're doing it now because it's something we were looking forward to, and it's such an iconic game that this is like a moment.
It is a moment. All of you witnesses, you got to enjoy this because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. There you go.
Yeah.
I said it.
It's happening once in a lifetime. So for today's discussion, since we're doing two parts, we are doing today not necessarily focusing on the Nintendo 64 version, but we're going to go through some of the game facts of the people involved in the Nintendo 64 version. Mm-hmm. And then in part two, we're just going to highlight some of the people who helped work on the 3DS version and some of the fun facts related to that, because I believe we both played the 3DS version for this episode.
We did indeed. I don't personally actually own an N64 or the original copy of this game anymore, which is sad, but also, the 3DS version really did it for me. Really appreciated it. And plus, the updated graphics are kind of nice.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch through a playthrough of the old one, or at least some sections of it to see the differences. Because I did think to myself during this, I thought this was going to look older. I thought this was going to play a little bit worse. And, I was pleasantly surprised in that regard.
Hell yeah. Same.
Yeah, though I do think this game could use like a full-on remaster. I think that would be pretty rad.
No, there's actually a lot of talk right now.
I've seen this.
Yeah, and actually, there's a lot of things behind the talk. There's a good chance we're gonna get this on the Switch pretty quick. A full HD remaster Ocarina of Time would be pretty dope.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any solid sources. And Micah, if we believed everything on the internet, we might be inside the Capitol building right now.
It's true, We might be inside of the Capitol building, shouting down all these Antifa dudes who are, taking our rally away from us.
Yeah, I mean, to prep for this episode, though, I did wear my
your buffalo hat,
my buffalo hat, and I painted my face, not with the American flag, with the Majora's Mask face, the Skull Kid. Yeah, I'm not wearing a shirt either. It's crazy. Actually, no, I'm wearing a shirt. I decided to flip it. I'm not wearing pants.
I have to say this is one of the craziest things that's happened in our lifetime. One of the funniest things, though, is a picture of this old lady who looks fucking confused as shit in the middle of all this rage going on in the middle of the Capitol. And I think that the police locked her out. I want to dress up as that lady for Halloween.
Things escalated quickly for her.
Yeah, she was like, is this Applebee's?
Is this the tour? Signed up for the tour of the Capitol building?
Oh my God, yeah.
And then a guy in a buffalo hat tased her. No.
Dude, I think I told you this, but there's all this information about, I think there were 5 deaths associated with the whole thing, the whole storming of the Capitol. One guy or one lady got shot when she was climbing over a barricade after Secret Service instructed them that if they went over this barricade, they would be shot. So, sad, but she knew what was going on. Then one dude died because he tased himself and he had a heart attack. I think I told you this earlier. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
It just goes to show you, a lot of people want to do crazy shit, but, it doesn't always work out for you.
It's just a poop stain on America is what that is. So if you're listening in the future, this is just remember these crazy times.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about, that image of the guy with the buffalo hat and no shirt and the face painting sitting in the Speaker of the House's chair.
Yeah.
in the Capitol building.
That's going to be infamous.
Infamous. In 20 years, that'll be in textbooks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
in schools, and people will be like, "Holy shit!"
Dude, that's so crazy. And the funniest thing about all this is really the only comment I want to make about this whole entire endeavor. People keep saying things like, "Oh, this isn't America. This isn't like what we do in America." This is probably one of the most American things to ever happen. Let's be real here.
I mean,
We're all
if
like,
you
"Oh,
dig
this."
that back into the history.
It's just crazy. It's shitty, and the rest of the world is like, "Oh yeah, no, that's America." You know?
I mean, the rest of the world's just had popcorn out, enjoying this fucking show for the last 4 years,
Watching us burn ourselves down.
I know, it's crazy.
It's absolute nuck and futz.
Nuck and futz. You know what else is nuck and futz? How good this game is.
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time. And so I'm going to start us through the game facts for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was developed by Nintendo EAD. Everybody knows this is a Nintendo game. And of course, it was published by Nintendo as well. There are 5 different directors. There was not a singular director. And Shigeru Miyamoto, who's listed as the producer and like supervisor of the game, he was actually in charge of overlooking all of the directors and supervising all of them. So obviously Shigeru Miyamoto is like the main guy. He is the first person listed in the credits at the end of the game. But for the directors, we have Toru Osawa, Yoichi Yamada. We have Eiji Aonuma, which I was shocked that we have not talked about him yet. He has worked on pretty much every single Zelda game other than like some of the first ones. And then, of course, the Oracle games because those were developed by Capcom.
Yeah.
And he, in this particular game, was in charge of all of the dungeon designs. So he's a legend. He directed Majora's Mask. I think he was one of the main producers on Breath of the Wild. He's worked on everything. Twilight Princess, Wind Waker.
Hell yeah. Eiji's he's a big name. You know, it's funny. I don't oftentimes look up a lot of the names or read the people involved in, a lot of the video games that I like to play, but I'm familiar with him from way back in the day because he's, he's one of those dudes.
Oh, yeah, he's a legend. I mean, there is nobody at Nintendo who will ever surpass Shigeru Miyamoto. Probably never anybody in the video game industry.
Yeah,
to be
probably not.
Honest. But Eiji Aonuma is as close as you can get, probably. Up there, at least.
Yeah.
Right up there with like Hideo Kojima and all of them. So the other 2 directors, we have Yoshiaki Koizumi. He was actually the director of Super Mario Sunshine. He's had a very long career at Nintendo, in primarily the franchises of Mario and Zelda, and he's still like a high-ranking member at Nintendo. And then the last one is Toshio Ayawaki.
Just got to say that I love me some Super Mario Sunshine.
I've never played it.
That is a classic.
I mean, I've played parts, never beaten it.
That's funny, though, because I played that, but I've never played Mario 64. So, there we go.
We are going to do Mario 64, and hey, we might do Mario Sunshine. I don't know.
Hell yeah. I would be definitely into it.
Okay, for the programmers, we have Kenzo Hayakawa. For the artists, we have Yoshiaki Koizumi, who we already mentioned as one of the directors.
Mm-hmm.
We have Yusuke Nakano. I feel like I haven't read these in a while, and I feel like I'm rusty now, the other artist is Yusuke Nakano. The writer is Toru Osawa and Kensuke Tanabe, who's also a very prominent figure in the Nintendo world. Mm-hmm. Composed, of course, by the legendary Koji Kondo, who we have talked about so much.
Love him.
So platforms. Nintendo 64 is the OG, right? Eventually came out on GameCube as the Master Quest release, which the 3DS version actually takes some elements of that. Master Quest essentially was a harder version, had like more enemies, and everything was mirrored. Everything was like the same game, but mirror of itself.
Sort of like the Upside Down.
Exactly. And then, of course, the Nintendo 3DS is the most recently updated version of the game. And who knows, maybe we'll add Switch to that, or the Switch Pro, or the Nintendo Brain Chip, which is following Switch.
Just you wait.
And then it was released in November of 1998 for Japan and North America, and then it followed Australia and Europe in December of that same year. And at least 7.6 million copies have been sold worldwide, which is so low when you think of how many copies a typical new game will sell.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. Is that just the sales for the N64 release?
It said, this was actually when I was reading the 3DS information, I believe. It was saying total sales, not just of the 3DS, but of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So early 2010s, we were only around 7.6.
Damn. I'm curious to see what the official numbers are now, but they've got to be higher than that because there are a lot of people who played this game.
For sure. I mean, maybe we were all just trading copies of our carts.
That's true, though.
So yeah, man, why don't you read us through some of these fun facts?
Hell yeah. So, Ocarina of Time is actually the #1 best rated game of all time on Metacritic.com. It is the only game that sits at a 99 rating.
Yeah, and I got a little trivia for you here, Micah.
Hell yeah. So there are 3 games sitting at 98 on Metacritic. What are they? And I'm just gonna shoot some guesses.
I will. Let me just tell you, I will be shocked if you get a single one of these.
Okay, I'm gonna guess. Super Mario 64.
I'm gonna keep a stone face until you say all 3.
Okay, then I'm going to guess Metal Gear Solid, but that's also just because, generally speaking, that was received very well, mostly by fans though. So I feel like that one's not gonna be right. You know what? Let's just say something stupid. We're going to throw a stupid third one in here. Curveball. Black Ops 2. Why not?
Black Ops 2. Okay. Like I said, I would have shat had you gotten a single one of these right. Because I guess there's only one of them that I'm not like totally shocked. I just wouldn't have thought it would have been like top 4 games of all time on Metacritic.
Yeah.
Which is like the website that aggregates all scores on the internet. Okay. So this is how they were listed. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Damn.
98.
Damn.
Grand Theft Auto 5. That's the one I wasn't totally shocked by.
That makes sense.
I was still pretty surprised. And then, and this was the most shocking to me, Soul Calibur 4, which I love that game. I played the shit out of that game on Dreamcast.
Okay.
So good.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the only other games listed at 98. Everything else is a 97 or low.
Damn.
Lower.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I get it for the Grand Theft Auto 5. I get it for Tony Hawk, maybe. But Soul Calibur. That's weird.
I think it's probably because the Dreamcast is so beloved and it was such a short-lived console that people have such fond memories of that game because it was one of few gems on that console.
Yeah, the nostalgia drives it.
Yeah. That's my guess. I don't know for sure.
Well, damn. There we go.
Okay. Anyway, back to the fun facts.
Back to the fun facts. Ocarina was originally planned to be released on the Nintendo 64DD. The DD's, of course, standing for disk drive. But this changed. So we got on the original old school cartridge, thankfully. If it had not come out on a cartridge form in the US, I would have never played it as a child. I can almost guarantee you.
I think that failed in the Japanese market. I don't think they ever brought the 64DD to America.
Yeah. Because any of those like add-ons and shit, like my family wouldn't have gotten behind it. You know, why pay more money for something else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That would have been what would have happened. The game was originally supposed to be 16 megabytes in size, but they had to increase it to a whopping 32 megabytes. There were discussions in development to use the same world traversal mechanics used in Super Mario 64 to save space. Link would be in Ganon's castle and traveling to different worlds that way. Thankfully,
like jumping through a painting,
yeah,
essentially.
But thankfully, they did not do that. Because that's part of one of my favorite things about this game is having to run through the field, go into different places, all the excitement and weird shit you come across in between, you know, dungeons.
We'll talk about that for sure when we get into
yeah.
the playthrough.
Well, sweet. Miyamoto originally wanted to give the game, he wanted the game to be from a first-person perspective, but we ended up going to the third person. Once again, interesting. Kind of glad it didn't work out that way. Next up, the Fire Temple dungeon music has samples of Islamic prayer chants. Now, Nintendo actually used commercially available samples for this, but they did not realize it was Islamic chants. So in the later editions of the game, probably the one that we played too, they actually removed it because that was, pretty offensive.
Yep. There was some outcry from that, and then also Nintendo has like a policy of putting no religious anything in their games.
Yeah.
It's a funny mistake though. Like, you'd think you might look into that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Fun fact. That's why these are fun facts, Micah.
Fun fact. Apparently, the fishing minigame was created by Kazuaki Morita in secret. He was in charge of designing bosses, so this became sort of like a side project, and people liked it so much that it was included in the game.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually one of the most memorable things about this game when I was a kid. I used to fish all the time.
Me too. I was obsessed with fishing as a kid.
Dude.
I can't say that so much on this playthrough. I got way too frustrated.
Yeah. I fished exactly one time in this playthrough.
I actually fished more than that.
Hell yeah.
I really tried to get that biggest fish, and I got pissed off. I got him on the line so many times, and I gave up.
I got him. I did. Once I got him in, that's all I did.
Well, how did you get him in? We'll talk about it later.
It took me like 5 minutes, but I did. Okay.
Better than me.
No, I don't think I'm better than you in the fishing. I just got more lucky, I think. I honestly don't know how to fish in Zelda, and usually when I try to, particularly as a kid, I would always fail, but it was just so intriguing and enthralling.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't know how you're
it's like
probably
a pretty
supposed to do it.
fleshed out, fun fishing game that's just like a side thing to do. It's
Totally.
awesome.
It was better than any of the fishing games I played back then. I didn't play fishing games a lot, but sometimes my friends had them. So, but yeah, moving on, although I don't want to. I'm going to go back and fish in the game now. Inside of Hyrule Castle, you can actually find pictures of Mario characters by looking through the window. This Easter egg is actually at the very beginning of the game. Whenever you actually go see Zelda for the first time, you have to make a point of not immediately going to talk to her, and exploring a little bit. There's also this thing where you can shoot. What is it? Do you have the boomerang, or is it you get the slingshot first? I can never remember. But
you get the boomerang.
Yeah, if you.
Oh no, you get the slingshot.
If you slingshot the window, someone actually throws a bomb at you from inside the window. They're like, "Get out of here, kid!"
Yeah, boomerang's not till Jabu Jabu.
Yeah, another little Easter egg in this
I didn't
game.
know that.
Yeah, I did it this playthrough actually, just for good times, good memories. But yeah, the Easter egg was fun. I remember that as a kid. I really liked it. And yeah, I too. You have it written down. I loved Easter eggs as a kid, and in this game particularly. And same thing.
Oh yeah,
those are some of the funnest memories I have of this game. You can change the pitch of the ocarina by holding the R and Z buttons to go up or down in pitch. This serves no purpose. They literally just added it into the game so you could play around with it and have fun.
Yeah, I never really played around with that as a kid.
I did way too much.
Yeah, I never did. I don't know why.
I used to try to play theme songs and stuff, like Star Wars themes in particular.
I'm sure you can on the internet find pretty much every song ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And so for the plot, I figured we could have you run through it because I know you. I feel like you have a stronger tie to this game than I do. It was like one of my favorite games ever as a kid, and then this was the first time I've played it in a long time.
This is probably like the 5th time I've played it total.
Yeah.
But it's also been a hot minute for me as well. I didn't realize how long it had been, but the last time I actually played through the entirety of Zelda was when it originally came out for the GameCube. Way back when.
Well, see, this is only the second time I've beaten the game. I had played several of the dungeons again. This is only the second time I'd ever beaten. I used to just like explore the world back in the day. That's what I would spend all my time doing after I beat it the first time.
That's totally the same for me. So the plot of this game is you are Link, a young boy who lives in the Lost Forest, with a bunch of fairy children who never age. However, you don't have a fairy, and all of them do have a fairy companion. So, right off the bat, Link's different. And as it turns out, Link is very different. He's destined for great things. You are sort of the, it doesn't really dive into this, but you're sort of like the hero, the reincarnated hero.
You're like the hero of time, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what they call you?
Totally. And you are destined to save Hyrule. The Great Deku Tree realizes this, takes you in, raises you as one of his own. And yeah, the story sort of unfolds. You're sort of forced to leave your home and go off on these crazy adventures to save, space and time, sort of. You start out the game being young, and you go through several different phases, bosses, picking up items, facing off new enemies. And eventually you are, sort of given the opportunity to level up, as it were. You become an adult. You get to do a bunch of adult things like drinking, ghosts and shooting bows and arrows.
Oh yeah.
And riding horses. And yeah, you go off to defeat the evil Ganon and restore peace and prosperity to the land of Hyrule.
Yeah, and I mean, anybody who knows Zelda knows of the Triforce. 3 triangular pieces make up the Triforce, representing wisdom, wisdom, power, and courage. And essentially, if Ganon gets a hold of all of them, he becomes like the ruler of all of Hyrule.
Super Ganon.
Super Ganon, and that's what you are trying to prevent.
Yeah. So Ganon actually, at the very, towards the beginning of the game, gets a hold of the Triforce. But whenever somebody of impure heart gets a hold of the Triforce, it breaks apart, and two pieces go off to someone else. But whatever piece stays with them is sort of like what they what they idolize more than anything else. So Ganon loves power; he gets the Triforce of power. The Triforce of wisdom goes off to somebody else. That eventually unfolds in the story. You can figure that out. And the Triforce of courage, same thing, goes up and sort of becomes a part of somebody else as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole entire thing is sort of like trying to be Ganon. You're sort of, when you become an adult, it's revealed that you sort of sat on the sidelines for 7 years and Ganon sort of took over the whole entire world, or at least the whole entirety of Hyrule. And you're sort of like trying to undo all the shit he did in 7 years in a very short time. Using the mechanics of time travel, being able to teleport and warp around to different places, mostly just for the sake of making travel easier. And picking up friends along the way to help you out. So, fun game.
And we'll get into the specifics as we get to those parts in the game, but it's a long game, so there's a lot of things that happen.
Yes.
All right, so let's get into the gameplay. Now, if you've played a Zelda, all this will sound familiar, so I'll go through it pretty quickly. But this is the first 3D Zelda game, so it's quite a bit different than the ones that came before. We've already talked about A Link to the Past, my personal favorite Zelda of all time. But yeah, this game really changed how a Zelda game plays, how the worlds are built. Just really took the Zelda formula and brought it to 3D in a beautiful way. So it's a third-person action-adventure game with tons of puzzle elements. I always loved the puzzle elements. That's probably why I like puzzle games as an adult now. The main gameplay loop in any Zelda game, maybe not so much Breath of the Wild. Well, I guess it is because you're tracking down all of the shrines. But the main gameplay loop in this one for sure is searching out the dungeons that have something that you need to find, finding the keys and all the necessary items to navigate through those dungeons, and then defeating the final boss. Bosses are a key component of any Zelda game. Mm-hmm. Central gameplay mechanic added to Ocarina of Time specifically is the ocarina itself. Now, we had the flute. I guess you could say it might have been an ocarina in Link to the Past, but it's not nearly as important to the story and to the gameplay.
Yeah.
It's key to this game. I mean, it's called Ocarina of Time. I mean, jeepers. How more important could it be?
It's not Ocarina of that one bird.
Yeah, exactly. The chicken that picks you up and flies you around. Yeah, so the ocarina, you play a bunch of songs. I think you learn like 12 different tunes. They teleport you around the world. They make night turn to day and day turn to night. They do a bunch of things. So yeah, the ocarina, central gameplay mechanic added. And then, of course, like any Zelda game, just interacting with characters and taking part in little side quests and little story tidbits are key to any Zelda game. So if we're just talking about like the actual playing the game experience, you have a health meter represented by hearts. You collect heart pieces. Every 4 you collect, you'll get a new heart added to your total life meter. And then every time you beat a final boss, you get a heart as well. How many hearts did you have at the end of the game? Do you know?
I had a full top bar, and then I had, I think, 4 hearts on the bottom. Mm. So I think that was a total of 14 hearts, because it's 10 and 10, right?
10 and 10, yeah. I had 16 total. I went on a couple adventures just, searching for hearts.
Yeah. I did a little bit of that, but ultimately, whenever it came time to face Ganon, I was like, you know what? I think I got enough.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't played this game in 20 years. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I went a little crazy. Had a little fun. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
Nice.
So yeah, that's your health meter. Primary loadout, you have like a green tunic, a sword, and a shield, but as you go through the game, you collect new weapons, new gear. So new weapons like a boomerang, a bow and arrow, bombs, all kinds of stuff. New items, hammer, storage bottles. New gear, like tunics that will give you different abilities, or different boots that will give you different abilities. And we'll dig into all of those as we get through the game, but that's another one of the joys of Zelda, is just collecting all of this great stuff.
Hell yeah. I meant to ask you this. How many bottles did you have at the end?
Listen, man, I know how to get the 4th bottle with the pose. I didn't fuck with that.
Exactly. I got 3 bottles and I was like, fuck these pose.
It's ridiculous. You have to catch like 15 of them. It takes forever, and you have to go back to the guy.
And I like that kind of stuff. If I had infinite amount of time to play this game before we do the episode, I totally would have, because I did that as a kid. But at the same time, 3 automatic revives was enough for my playthrough.
I wouldn't even have done it. Well, as a kid, I totally would have done it 100%. But now, it's just like, if it's not something that's really going to add to my experience, I don't need a 4th bottle.
Yeah.
Because this game really is not that hard.
It isn't too terribly difficult.
Let's be honest. It's the puzzles are the hardest part. Like the actual like dying, you just collect some fairies and the 3 bottles you have. You're never gonna die.
Yeah, it should be stated that the fairies, whenever you die, they will automatically revive you and refill your whole entire health meter. So, you pretty much, if you collect a fairy in a bottle, that's a revive.
Yeah.
Restart without dying. You don't have to start from the beginning. It makes the game pretty easy.
Yeah, and I mean, because I died, but I had fairies, and I would play so loose because I would always keep 3 fairy bottles on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never came close to actually dying in my entire playthrough.
I actually died once in my whole playthrough.
Man, that's embarrassing.
I know, it was pretty embarrassing.
Wow.
Yeah. Ouch.
Okay, well, you might have caught the big fish, Micah, but...
I caught the big fish, but I took the big nap, too.
You took the big one, the big nap. That means you dead.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. Okay, so this is the first 3D Zelda game, as I mentioned, which brings about some other gameplay changes that you need to think about, of course, being in a 3D space. So there is a target lock-on system that had never been in Zelda, some platforming elements. You can't jump, but when you go up to an edge, you will kind of like leap off automatically. You can hang from edges as well, things that were never in the 2D versions, of course. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's improved enemy AI as well. There are some pretty challenging enemies like the skeletons and the lizard guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good stuff. And then the last couple things I wanted to point out here, like any Zelda game, secrets are huge. Exploration is key. It's one of the reasons that made this game so very special when it came out in 1998.
Yeah.
This big open world that you could just wander around in. And then, yeah, last thing, there's occasional stealth and sneaking sections. Did I miss anything? This game has so many things going on that I hope I captured all the main gameplay elements.
I don't think so. You already covered pretty much everything, Cool. 3D, jumping around, collecting things, having a good time.
Okay.
Collecting milk is also important in this game, too, if you don't have fairies.
Yes, I did drink from the teat of the cow.
Milk Drink Simulator 1998.
Yeah, the animation when they show Link go under the cow and he's just uttering it right into his mouth. It's pretty...
It's just like in Star Wars, the Luke Skywalker blue milk shit, man.
Yeah, why?
Why?
God damn it, The Last Jedi. God damn it.
That's okay. We got the Mandalorian now, so, we can be happy.
Yes. Yes, we did. But God damn it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
Well, sweet. To go through the characters here a little bit, there are lots, and we'll discuss them in depth as we come across them. But just, to go over some of the big players here. We have, of course, Link, the main guy. While Zelda may take the title of the game, Link is the playable character.
My number 1 draft pick in the Nintendo draft that we had.
Still a little sore, but I'll take it. Link is one of the greatest heroes of all time, In every single Zelda game, you play as Link, and you are going through trying to save the world. Link is a pure of heart character, a few words, or a few actual typed up on the screen words.
I mean, if we're being honest, exactly 0 words ever.
Totally. But yeah, you always play as Link. Link is the hero of time. He's usually wearing a green tunic. He's got a sword, usually a shield, and, various other weapons. Link's a badass. He's a cool guy. Other than Link, we have Zelda. She's sort of like the wise one. She's always the princess of, Hyrule. She's, in charge of, sort of like she's the brains behind the operation in almost every single Zelda game. Of course, there are definitely games that mix up that formula, but Zelda is usually associated with a Triforce of Wisdom, whereas Link is associated with a Triforce of Courage. She's more about knowing and planning and making things work, whereas Link is more about doing things. She's more concerned with magic and making sure that she knows, how to seal away Ganon. And yes. She's the one who tells you how to do those kind of things. So very important.
In a character, I believe, on your Nintendo draft.
Yes, I did snag that one away from you. Next up, we have Ganondorf. Ganon is also the main enemy in every single game. Just like the Triforce is always the center of the Legend of Zelda, these 3 characters represent each piece of the Triforce, Ganondorf being power. He is a power-hungry enemy. Almost always in the games, he is trying to take over Hyrule. There are definitely times when he is more of a mindless beast, and there are very few games in which Ganon does not actually play a part, Majora's Mask being one of those, as well as the Oracle of Ages and Seasons.
Yeah.
Ganondorf is, he's a bad dude. He's a bad dude who is willing to pretty much stop at nothing to get what he wants, which is utter and complete control of Hyrule.
Bad dude. Bad dude.
Yeah.
Classic,
So we also have the fairy who comes to you in the game. I always referred to this character as Navi, but the proper pronunciation I do believe is Navi.
That's how I always called her Navi.
Navigation, I think, is the intended, for completion of that name.
Hey, listen.
Yeah, Navi is the one who tells you to listen constantly, pointing out objectives, enemies' weaknesses, points of interest. Half the time, Navi will also confuse you because Navi likes to show you where you need to go, but doesn't always tell you how to get there. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. So you have to both listen and also learn to ignore Navi.
Yes, there's only one time in the entire game that I was really just like, oh my god, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, Navi likes to really talk about saving a lot in the 3DS version as well.
And to take a break.
I don't want to take a break. I don't want to save. I want to keep playing.
We got a show to record. I need to play this for 9 hours straight.
Hell yeah.
So, I'll tell you about that moment when it gets to it.
Beautiful. Other than Navi, we sort of have in this game some very important characters who come up as you progress through the game. They are sort of the embodiments of different areas. A couple of which Soraya, or I think that's how I've always said her name.
I've always said Saria.
Saria is probably more correct.
I don't know. Soraya sounds more interesting. So.
I would say Soraya's song, but who's to say? Someone for sure, but not me.
And again, the characters we have listed here, we're only going through the ones in the first half of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So the next episode, we'll talk about some of those other ones. I think you already said that, didn't you?
I didn't actually, but that's worth mentioning too. Yeah. So she's sort of like your friend. She's a little bit soft-spoken, but a kind-hearted individual who's always sort of like looked out for Link. We've also got the great Deku Tree himself. He's a giant sentient tree that watches over the children of the forest. Also, the one responsible for taking Link in. Which we'll find out more about in a little while. Then we have Impa, who is the nurse to Zelda. She is also one of the last remaining Sheik descendants, or I think that's what they're called, right?
Yeah.
The Sheik?
The Sheikah.
Yeah, Sheikah. Yeah, because Sheik is a Sheikah.
Yeah.
So she is one of the last Sheikah descendants. She plays an important role in the game. She's also nurse to Zelda. We have...
She's also buff as fuck.
Dude, she looks like she could fucking drop a motherfucker.
Yeah. She ain't messing around.
Darunia, who is a Goron. He's the leader of the Gorons. He's important. He's a pretty grumpy dude, but once you kind of, bring his spirits up with some good music, he becomes brothers with Link.
Yeah, he's like a Goron you want to grab a beer with.
Hell yeah, dude. You also want him on your side in a fight because he's buff as fuck too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Princess Ruto. She is the princess of the Zora, who are the fish-like people who live in the waters and, sort of like oversee keeping Lake Hyrule and the rivers that feed the water to the whole entire Hyrule area clean and secure.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many other little characters that we'll bring up as we go through the game and bosses, that we'll talk about. So, I mean, I think that's for the most part. I mean, the graphics are 3D, but we'll talk about the designs and things as we go through the game.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a question about the music. The music is obviously so key, and we'll talk about the different songs and everything. But I was just curious, right off the bat, what is your favorite Zelda soundtrack?
Ocarina of Time, hands down.
For sure?
Yeah, I have no second thoughts there. I really like Majora's Mask because it brings a lot of these same themes back. I really like a lot of the future Zelda games because they have higher quality, sometimes whole entire orchestras doing the music.
Mm-hmm.
But this is by far my favorite. Every theme and song in this game is memorable, and yeah, it's great. Not a bunk track on the list.
No, for sure. I mean, the music was so nostalgic. Having not played this, it was one of those things that every time you learn a new song, or every time you just have to play a song to make something happen, it's like, God damn, it's so ingrained in my mind. Now, having said that, it's a Link to the Past for me.
That's understandable because A Link to the Past is your Ocarina of Time.
It is.
It holds the same place in your heart that this game holds in my heart.
And the music for Ocarina of Time, I did play that with friends. I mean, we would all run around. But when we were running around, when we were playing Ocarina of Time together, we were not doing the story bits. We were just fucking around trying to find secrets. With Link to the Past, it was like me and my brother and my family in Florida playing this game. And like my parents still know the soundtrack. And when I hear some of those songs, they just like, it's perfect.
Yeah. So that's the feeling that I get when I play this game and listen to these songs. because it was me and my siblings who all got super into this,
Mm-hmm.
So many like nights when we stayed up way too late playing this game, in the dark, in the basement,
Yeah.
good times.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. We're already 45 minutes in, and we're about to get through the playthrough here. So let's dive into a little happy hour, chat about some things we've been doing that haven't been video game related, and then we'll jump into the playthrough.
Hell yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. Would you like to go first or second on the happy hour?
You know what? I'll go first because I don't really have too much to talk about this week.
Okay.
For me, a lot of my week has been spent just working. It's been a pretty lackadaisical week other than that, though. But yeah, it's been a pretty chill week for me. Haven't really done too much. I just want to give a shout out to COVID testing. That is something I did this last week. As always, I work with the public, so I like to be careful. I also may have accidentally been around somebody who had traveled internationally. So I was trying to make sure I was good. Went and got a COVID test. Literally took me 3 seconds. Didn't even wait in line. I drove up. They ushered me in. They gave me the swab. I swabbed and I was out literally in 2 minutes. So if you're in the Denver area, make sure you sign up and get tested regularly because it's free. It's super quick and take a little weight off your mind.
Yep.
But yeah, other than that, just eating a lot of cheese and meats. I don't know about you, but for New Year's, I like to do a little spread of food. And this year, it was just me and my roommate eating this food. So I had way too much meat, way too much cheese. I made a nice little board, but then, I'm literally still eating all this shit.
Man, I remember our last episode you were talking, because this was pre-New Year's. I remember you were talking about the Christmas feast that you made. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're just like a holiday feast, man. I don't know.
Well, the holidays are a good time to eat food you like. And, I think a little charcuterie plate, as it were, is a nice way to celebrate the New Year's. But yeah, I've literally, I don't know, probably like every day been eating meat and cheese, just trying to get rid of it. So now I'm to the last little bits of it. I've already gotten rid of all the cheese I really like. So it's the remnants of the okay cheese. No, it's been fun though, just sort of like, it's like one of the greatest things about the holidays is whenever you get all this stuff you like, you get all this food you like, this drink you like, just enjoying it and enjoying the holidays in a sort of an extended way. It's enjoyable. But now it's like the 8th when we're recording this episode, so it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
Now this cheese is about to not be good anymore, so I'm just trying to get rid of it at this point.
You gotta down that cheese.
But yeah, no, eating leftovers. That's my topic of the day.
I like that one. Now, if you don't have any leftovers or you're listening to this and you don't need to take a COVID, because hopefully in the future we won't have to.
Yeah.
I got something that will always be good. Something that you've wanted me to consume for a while now.
Yes.
The Mandalorian.
I knew you were going to talk about this.
Season 2.
Oh,
now,
God. Thank God.
I'm not going to do any spoilers. I'm not going to say anything at all that will give anything away. I will just say I liked the first season. I wasn't like in love with the first season. A lot of people like super hardcore loved the first season.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Second season was just awesome. I mean, it was like a love letter to Star Wars fans in so many ways. So many of the things in there were just so good.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see where they go. I'm excited to see if they ever like branch some of these things out into like well, we already know. I won't say anything. Very cool. Watch The Mandalorian season 2. I think it was far superior than Mandalorian season 1, and like I said, I already liked season 1.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hell yeah. I gotta say, Star Wars, without spoiling anything, introduces sweaters, brings some, characters from the TV shows into live action, and just does a really good job, They do a good job of bringing in new fans. People who don't really care about Star Wars really enjoy it, and also, like you said, love letter to the classic fans, too.
Yeah, I mean, there really were some... I mean, there's a couple moments that are, like, super awesome callbacks to all Star Wars fans, and then there's just, like, smaller things that you might appreciate if you're a Star Wars fan,
Totally.
Cool. That was Happy Hour. If you have any questions, thoughts, manifestos, send them our way, and we will get you heard on the show. And if you send us 2 questions, we'll give you a kiss.
Hell yeah. Whatever makes you happy.
Or whatever makes you happy.
Hour.
This is an agreement I don't know if I signed up for, but it's been said, so...
Hell no, hell yeah.
I don't break a verbal promise, okay?
Dope.
All right, man. So, let's do it.
Let's get in. Let's get in there.
Let's get in, and then let's get in even deeper.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So I don't even know, man. This is just such a robust, big, important game. It's hard to even start, but I have a general question about the game because we played on the 3DS. Did you play this with the 3D effects on?
I did for exactly 2 minutes of my playthrough.
Man, I tried, and I honestly think the 3D effect is pretty incredible.
It is.
Like, it's incredible. I had a regret because, I talked about on the show that I bought this 3DS off of Facebook Marketplace like a few months ago. Got a really good deal on it. It was cheaper than any, like, this is the 3DS XL. This is not the new 3DS XL.
Oh.
And, I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. So I was just, like, saving money. I figured I wouldn't be playing that many games on it. But the 3D, like, you barely tilt the screen and the 3D gets totally jacked up.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't handle it.
The new one actually has a lot better, like, eye tracking technology.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
And so I kind of regret just not ponying up a little bit more money. I mean, I saved, like, a lot of money, though.
Yeah. I'll say the worst case scenario, you can sell this for pretty much anything and get your money's worth, considering all the accessories and games you got with this shit.
Yeah. So I don't have regrets per se. But honestly, if you didn't even play with the 3D, then I don't care. Because that's literally the only reason I cared about it. Because there's, like, 2 games that require that nub. The nub is almost pointless for 99% of the games on it.
Yeah, seriously. And what nub are you referring to?
Where the X, Y, A, B buttons are, right above it, there's that little nub right there. That's a joystick.
I guess I've never really fucked with that shit.
Do you have a new 3DS? Or is
I thought so.
So, yeah, it's a second joystick.
See, I thought mine was the new 3DS because I know that there are some games you cannot play without it, but
yeah,
maybe I got an old one.
If there's no like physical joystick button right above the 4 buttons on it, like the X, Y, and A, B, then you don't have a new 3DS.
Well, damn. Maybe I'll have to pony up and get one myself.
Yeah, so maybe that's why you turned your 3D off too, because it just you barely tilt the screen and it's like game over.
But I'll say, in all honesty, I don't even think if it worked 110% perfectly that I'd even really care to have it on, because it's a cool effect, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, okay, a lot of Wii games had really cool, innovative controls that got really old really fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about the 3D effect. It's like cool, but like, do I really want to bother with it every single time? Probably not.
Well, see, that's the thing. If I could turn that on, and when I because I was literally having to sit like perfectly still, eyes straight on the screen, and if I could just like not have to do that, if I could play the game just moving around regularly like I normally would with anything, and it would always look as good at any angle, I totally would have had it on because I thought it was pretty amazing. It actually was very impressive, more impressive than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I think, in all honesty, I don't really care too much for the effect. It is cool sometimes, but I don't know. I just, it's like watching 3D TVs. You remember that was a thing?
Oh yeah, those sucked.
Yeah, it's not really a thing anymore.
After 5 minutes, you'd be like, man,
I'm tired of this.
I really hate how my eyes feel. Why
Yeah,
does my brain hurt?
But yeah, in all honesty, I really thought about getting a 2DS, but I got a good deal on this one as well. So, I just bought it.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. This is not a show about the 3DS. This is a show about the mother friggin' Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, one of the best games ever.
Indeed.
And so the opening sequence is so memorable to me. Link in his treehouse. Why don't you tell us about it while I pour myself another beverage?
Oh, I need to actually probably finish this and do the same. But the story begins with the Deku Tree, who is the guardian of the vast lost woods. He oversees the children of the forest, and it goes on to say that everyone in this little village has a fairy but one. Then we see Link, who is sort of in his little house, his little hut, having a nightmare, and then we get to see this nightmare, and it is a nightmare of a mysterious figure who it turns out is Ganon chasing another figure who is Zelda. And yeah, Link is having sort of a premonition of what is to come. But as he has nightmares, the Deku Tree speaks to his fairy friend, Navi, and tells him to go pick up Link and bring him to him. And then you get a nice little shot from the perspective of Navi flying around, which is one of the most iconic things of this whole entire game because I saw it so many times. And it's kind of cute because it's flying through all these things, and it goes to fly through, it's sort of like this lattice and hits the lattice and goes ow, and then just flies through. Does
You
a
got
proper
that music.
Yeah. Totally. It feels like I don't know, like a scene from like Peter Pan or something.
Totally feels like a scene from Peter Pan. Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
And so Navi comes and wakes you up and says that, the Deku tree wants to speak to you. And yeah, that's how the game begins.
Yeah, and Link wakes up living alone as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's a child in this place in a freaking treehouse that looks amazing. And I think this game was made for our age group because it targeted like the idea of living alone, like living this adventurous life, being a kid in this massive land where you can go anywhere, do anything you want, and having your own treehouse.
Yeah.
It was just super. I don't even know what's the way to say it. It's tailored for our age group when we played the game originally, but I don't know. It just made you want to be Link.
Childlike wonder.
Childlike wonder. Yes, you wanted to be Link. So
yeah, dude. It seems like his house is pretty cool. His life seems to be pretty awesome. He's living in a village of a bunch of kids who never age. So yeah. But it's not a perfect life because while all of them have a little fairy companion, Link's kind of pushed around by certain people because he doesn't have one.
Yeah, and you would think that when he wakes up with a fairy, he would have been like, yeah, right on. But he's not. He doesn't seem that chuffed about it.
He's very even tempered when it comes to anything in this game.
Yes, even when a shocking thing happens and they do like a pan into his face, it's deadpan. He never changes expression.
Sometimes I go, oh.
Yeah.
There's that one time that Goron tries to give him a hug and he runs away screaming.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
But there was another scene later in the game where they zoomed in on him where you would think he'd be like, whoa. Yeah. And he was just like, stone face. Like, yep.
That is our Link that we love.
Oh, we love Link.
But yeah, so, the game starts out, now you sort of realize, the Deku Tree wants to talk to you. You're different. There's something weird about you. You suddenly have a fairy now. And then you try to go to the Deku Tree, and this little asshole dude's just like, you can't go in there without a sword and shield. You're weak.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go quickly find a sword and a shield, which you can collect rather easily. Just, there's sort of like a little puzzle that you have to solve to get the classic little sword. Mm-hmm. And then, you can get a Deku shield by just collecting a couple of rupees, by jumping across some platforms, and then, go into the shop.
Yeah, and I think when you get the sword, you collect rubies along the way. Mm-hmm. And so the rupees add up pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's not difficult to get enough to get a shield.
Yeah, it is a good tutorial, though. I love that they made the tutorial not really a tutorial. You're just playing the game, exploring this world, finding things, and it's fun to do, but you're also learning how to play the game. So I always thought the entire intro scene was cool. And when you first come out of your house too, you meet Soraya, Link's Bay, as I put in here. And for some reason, I put this note in here. My memory, until I played this game 20 years later, every time I thought about this game, I remembered her hair being blue.
Weird.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but also, the color palettes weren't exactly super.
Yeah, but green and blue. I'm not colorblind. I have a friend who's colorblind. You might have saw that wrong, but
I was going to say, when you're a kid, blue hair, green hair, it's all the same hair.
Yeah.
It's all strange in the 90s.
And wacky. And wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the Great Deku Tree, we eventually get to him. We find that shield. We find that sword. We get by that little shithead who's blocking our way being a jerk. Who's kind of like, ooh, you got a fairy now. Everybody's very surprised that you have a fairy now. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, tell us about the Great Deku Tree.
Cool. Okay, so I just want to clear this up. I said Deku. I don't know. I've always said Deku, but it looks like it's probably D.
I've always said Deku. We have literally not pronounced one single name in this game the same yet, other than Link and Zelda.
Okay. I want to know, because when you're a kid and you're reading these things for the first time, you have all these little ideas in your head. But also, it's funny because I had to look this up real quick because I'm curious now. So, literally, these are the two, Deku or Deku.
Yeah.
And I can't find an answer.
Listen, you just say Deku, I'll say Deku, you say Soraya, I'll say Saria. The fans can just deal, all right? The listeners can just suck it up and understand that we say things differently.
Okay, that's fine. The thing about this, when people say words incorrectly, it's because they only read them. The problem with video games in our generation was that everything was text-based. There weren't a lot of, voice actors when it came to early video games. I think Spyro was one of the first games to actually really feature heavily feature voice actors.
Metal Gear Solid was pretty big.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
That was a big one.
But yeah, with these games, you have a couple sound bites, some clips, but overall, not a lot of vocal. People. You don't get a chance to have people pronounce stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, listen, and hey are the only words I think in the whole game.
Hello. There's that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it's not a lot. There's not a lot going on when it comes to the voice actors. So a lot of what we read, we're gonna pronounce differently because when you're a kid, you don't know all that shit, and as an adult, I couldn't tell you up from down because that's how I've said it my whole life. But at the end of the day,
just say it your way. I'm gonna say it my way.
Yeah. Deku, Deku, Saraya, Saria.
Potato, potato.
Navi, Navi. But it actually is Navi. I'll admit that one.
Who knows?
Yeah. Okay, so what were you saying though? I sort of interrupted you with this whole entire.
No. That was worth discussing because we have hours of more recording between this episode and the following episode.
You get ready.
Yeah, prepare your butts or prepare your anuses, I guess. So I think it needed to be said just because there's going to be a lot of things that with all the boss names, there's a lot of things we're probably going to pronounce differently.
Y'all feel free to write in and say how you pronounce things. And if you want us to make a correction on our pronunciation, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, if you have proof of how to pronounce something, we'll make sure to let the people know.
Yeah, I'm not too proud to admit when I'm wrong most of the time. Some of the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
No, never. Okay. So yeah, I was just saying Maka, since we can pronounce names how we choose. I thought you were going to come back with like a Jano or something.
I was thinking about it, but Joe No is not not really funny.
Maka. Sorry. You just leaned into your mic again like you're going to come up with another one. I keep getting prepared for it.
No, I have nothing, sir.
Okay, all right. So all I was saying, Mike T. Homus, that we run into that bully who's not letting us by. He comments on our ferry, I believe, but he also realizes that we have the Kokiri sword, and he's impressed by that. We got a shield. Now, if you come with one or the other, he's still like, you need a sword, even if you have that shield, or you need a shield, even if you have that sword. So once you have both, you then get to approach the mighty, the great, the one and only, the great Deku Tree.
Mr. Tree himself.
Yes, he's large.
I'm going to pop this beer real quick just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Anyway,
that felt good.
The Deku Tree himself.
Yeah, I saw a meme on the internet recently about J.R.R. Tolkien as it relates to one of his characters who is also a tree. And it might have been a post on Reddit or something where a person was like, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings. He wrote an entire elven language. He wrote all of this crazy lore. And then when he came to the almighty leader of trees, he named him Treebeard. I was like, that is pretty funny.
That's very true, actually.
Yeah.
Man.
Didn't come up with like a crazy thing there. But anyway, the Great Deku Tree is the Treebeard of Hyrule.
Mm-hmm.
He's a massive, massive tree with a radical mustache who tells you a whole bunch of interesting things.
Mm-hmm. He, at the very beginning, he actually comes and tells you, overall, he fills you in on a lot of shit you didn't know in this game. Mm-hmm. But when you initially hit him up, he tells you pretty much that this guy Ganon came over there, he cursed him, it sucks, there's all this weird shit inside of him, and he needs you to go inside and lift the curse.
Yeah, he's referring to Ganondorf as the Man in Black, and explains the plight of the land, if you will, and talks about the Triforce and everything. And then he opens up his large mouth, and we have Child Dungeon number 1.
Child Dungeon number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really like this. It's a really good intro to the game. How you've already had to figure out certain things, like how to roll, how to crawl, like how to get how you attack enemies. All these kind of things have been things you've already kind of figured out because you've had to get through the tutorial. This teaches you how the game is going to unfold for the rest of the whole entire game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, I haven't played this particular dungeon in 15 years. I played it for sure on the Master Quest because I started Master Quest and I beat the entire childhood portion of it, and I never beat anything after that. But I like immediately knew every single thing I had to do in this.
Yeah.
I could remember every section, every interaction. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, this one really stuck with me as a kid too. And also, to be totally honest, I played this so many times as a child and an adult. Anytime I've just been curious to pick up this game, that I almost always go through at least this dungeon.
Yeah, it's almost like starting this game just gives you like a little nostalgia bump. It's your nostalgia drug.
Yeah, dude.
And if you beat the dungeon, the Great Deku Tree, you kind of feel satisfied, and then you can put it down and be like, all right.
Yeah, totally.
I got my fix, man.
But the greatest thing about this game is that you probably have a million memories tied to the random things you've done on the side. Same thing with me. I completed this game for this episode, but I'm going to keep going back and continue to play because there's so much I remember doing as a kid so thoroughly. Yeah, I'm excited to keep playing this one. But yeah, no, sometimes I do just start the Deku Tree shit, beat it, and then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to drop it.
So you're inside of a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And like we talked about during the gameplay segment, Zelda's all about the dungeons. And that is by far, in my opinion, the biggest knock against Breath of the Wild is there were shrines, but they were like little puzzles. They weren't dungeons.
Yeah.
There's really only 4 dungeons in that game. And those dungeons weren't even that great.
Yeah. That is totally my knock against that game.
I mean, that for sure is my biggest knock against Breath of the Wild, which at some point I'd love to do an episode because I think it's a great game to compare with Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, totally.
Because I have a feeling you're a much bigger Ocarina of Time fan.
Oh, yeah.
And I am actually a bigger Breath of the Wild fan.
Sacrilege.
I know. And playing through this kind of reminded me why. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. So the Great Deku Tree, you are inside this massive, massive tree. So it's very vertical, very cylindrical, and not very wide. So basically right off the bat, you're just like climbing upward. You're fighting these skeletons that are falling from the ceiling, essentially, coming out of nowhere. We get our first golden skeletas. Would you like to tell us about the golden skeletas, Micah?
Yeah, so these bad guys, they're pretty much like special versions of these spiders. They're golden color. You killed them and you collect a token proving that you killed them. But this is actually one of the greatest collectible things about the game because they are hidden across the map. And as you continue to kill them, you're collecting these tokens. There are corresponding characters in the game you find eventually, who, as you continue to kill these Skoltas, I always call them. I don't know what the proper pronunciation is here either. Once you kill enough of these guys, you sort of like help lift the curse on these kids who are turned into a giant Skoltula, and they will give you items that help you along the way. Mm-hmm. Some of which are very useful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think the first one just gives you maybe like, I don't remember, like a bomb bag or something. But eventually you get...
But the bomb bag's still very useful. Yeah. It expands your bomb bag from 10 to 20, I believe.
But eventually you actually get something like a new wallet that can hold like 5 times as much as you probably had before. So it's helpful. It's good. It's good to find these guys as you go. But also this makes the game worth playing, partially because it gives you things to do outside of the main quest line that are interesting, that's fun, and it gives you small stuff that helps boost your enjoyment of the game. So
yeah, it's a great collectible thing, and when you're in a room with a Skolito, you'll always hear this like scratching noise, so you know they're somewhere, like they're like over and over and over. Really fun part of the game are collecting the golden Skolitos. I gotta say though, the prize, I mean, we might as well talk about it. There's so many things that happen in this game, we might as well just talk about things as they come up in conversation. The prize, which I've never gotten, I've never collected every Skolito. I have a feeling you have because you're hardcore.
Never actually collected every single one. I've gotten most of them though.
So I looked up what the prize was because I'd never gotten it, and the prize for getting every Skolita is, I don't think I've even gotten the second to last prize, but the major prize is you get 200 rupees. But you can go back to them like every day, I think, and get another 200 rupees. But that's a really lame prize.
Yeah, I mean, considering all the cool things you got beforehand, it's kind of lame. What are the other prizes you get from that?
Well, there's a lot of good stuff, but real quick, I want to say too, by the time you have every Skolita, you do not need money anymore. Like, I had so much money the end of the game for like the last 3 temples that it's like, why would you even want 200 every day at that point, because there's really no need for that much money in the game. Anyway, you get the bomb bag, you get the thing that the little like mirror, like lens that shows you when there's like a secret around, and it kind of flashes in the upper corner. You get the bomb chews at 40. I think 30 is the giant wallet where you get 500, and then 50 I believe is a heart piece.
Yeah.
I never got to I collected, well, how many skull toads did you collect? I think I collected 41 total. I had a lot of them.
I was like upper 40s, but I never actually went back to them after I got the Giant's wallet.
Yeah, so I didn't either.
Yeah.
Because I got the Giant's wallet, and then I was curious, and I looked up what all the prizes were, because I was like, this seems pretty good. Like, what else is there? And I was like, I don't give a shit about bomb shoes, one of the most useless items in the entire game.
Oh, but they're fun to use, though. They're hard to aim, but bomb chews are one of the weirdest, funnest items that this game introduced, I think, personally.
I never used them. I just thought they were like a useless item.
Well, okay, one of the interesting things to use them for, if you're locked onto a slow-moving enemy, they are really fun to just torpedo the shit out of them, you know? Because it's, you know, if you haven't played this game before, just to give you an idea of what this is, a bomb chew is like a normal bomb. It blows up, right? But it actually scurries across the floor in whatever direction you're pointing whenever you place it. So you can, you know, lock onto targets and throw a bomb chew. There are also mini games that require you to hit targets with a bomb chew. So, and that's one of the greatest things about this game too, is all the crazy mini games. But the bomb chew mini games are really hard and pretty fun.
Yeah, I found, you know, there's a secret. You go up the left side wall, and if you get that angle right, it helps.
I didn't know that.
You have to go up the left side wall. I couldn't beat it, so I cheated and I looked it up.
Interesting. I didn't play this playthrough, actually.
Oh my god, I played it like 10 times and I got pissed, and then I looked it up because there's like 1,000 chickens in your way, and I was like, how do I beat this? And I figured you had to go up the wall, but I couldn't figure out the angle. I got really frustrated, to be honest, and then I eventually figured it out.
Interesting.
But anyway, we got way off topic, but that's the reason this game is so great, is there's so many things that you do throughout the game, so we're going to be going on tangents all the time, I'm sure. But the Great Deku Tree, so yeah, you keep climbing up, you get the slingshot, your first item that you collect in the game in a temple that is needed to like solve the level. And it's needed to solve the temple because, or this dungeon, I guess, because there's spiders on like some webs that you're climbing up, and you have to kill the spiders before you climb up, otherwise they'll attack you and you can't get by those areas.
Yeah, this immediately opens up the game a lot for you. So, and also just having ranged attacks is a great thing, you know? If nothing else, it makes fighting enemies slightly easier.
I mean, that's another weapon that's just designed to be exciting for a kid.
Exactly.
You know? So yeah, you get the slingshot. You also get Deku nuts, which you can throw on the ground and they kind of stun enemies. You get Deku sticks, which you can hold. You can't hit things, but they're primarily used to light on fire and then light torches with.
Yeah.
Those are not like as important items as the slingshot. The slingshot is an item you get in a chest. Anything from a chest with a da-da-da-da, you know, when you hold it above your head.
It's important.
Those are very important. Now, I guess that noise does happen when you get Deku sticks and Deku nuts for the first time, but you get them from killing enemies and they just kind of fall into the ground.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Another thing I think that we should point out too is that as you solve dungeons, two of the items you will find in every single dungeon will be the map and the compass. The map will show you all the rooms and which ones you've been to. The compass will show you your position, if I remember correctly.
The compass will show you position and will also show you where treasure chests are on the map.
Cool, yeah. But those are important things, you know. They make the dungeons slightly easier. If you've ever been unlucky enough to miss one of them in a dungeon, it will take you a lot longer to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
So the maps are usually multi-leveled. You know, they'll show you all the rooms that are available, with also the rooms that you've been in being lit up. So it's kind of cool. And it will show you which room you're currently in, so you can use it to navigate a lot easier.
Yeah, the maps are key because when you get into a new dungeon or temple, and we're using those words interchangeably, but in the second half of the game, they're literally referred to as temples. Mm-hmm. But in Zelda lingo, dungeons. They're always just called dungeons. But yeah, when you get the map, it's great because for me, whenever I get a map, I immediately click on the map and then go through all the different floors just to see what type of layout I'm looking at, what type of structures I'm expecting, and just like also the size of the temple that I'm in or the dungeon that I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. There's some puzzles in this game where you have to burn the Deku sticks and burn some spider webs. I would say spiders are the major enemy in this, but there also are the piranha plant guys, like the chomper guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly know what to call them, but I've always called them like piranha plants, Venus flytraps. They pop out of the ground, they have poison breath, and they usually try to bite you. And when you kill them, you'll get a little Deku something for your troubles.
They are called Big Deku Baba.
Mm,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, they like to give you the sticks. And then you meet some of the scrubs as well. That's what those guys who like stay in the ground, and when you're far enough away, they'll come out and shoot a nut at you.
Yeah, there's a couple different versions of those guys. There's some that are like business guys, so whenever you like hit them, they'll give up and offer you a reward to not kill them. And then there's some that just like to go all the way to death rather than give up.
They fight to the end, man.
Yeah, those are the ones with they usually have black over their eyes, and then just there for war, not for profits.
I mean, there's also, yeah, there's also the Octo Rock versions of those that we don't see in this temple, but they're essentially the same enemy, just in the water. Yeah. They raise when you're far enough away and shoot seeds at you.
They're still annoying as hell.
Yeah. So yeah, that's for the most part the enemies. We got the Deku Scrubs, we got the Babas, and we got the Skolitas. And you know what the ones on the wall are called? The Skolitas on the wall?
No, what's their special name?
Skolwalitas.
Skolwalitas.
Not even kidding. That's what they're actually called. At least on ZeldaDungeon.net, a unbelievable resource for all things Zelda.
There's like big Skolwalitas. There's a lot of different versions of these spiders,
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, these are one of the most iconic Zelda enemies. There are a lot of Zelda games, particularly the 3D ones. But yeah, Skotala, Skowalita, all these dudes, they're weird as hell and kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as a kid, I never remembered that they actually do have eyes. I always saw the Skotala as, it looks like a skull. I always saw the eyes on the skull as being its actual eyes, but as it turns out, that's just his back. That's just a pattern on his back.
Mm-hmm.
He's still got eyeballs, all 8 of them, lighting up red.
He does have the eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man. Anything else to say about the dungeon on the whole? Like, I did want to say you climb to the top and then you jump down in the middle and you.
One of my favorite parts.
Oh yeah, you fall into that spider web because you jump so high it breaks through the spider web and you go to the layers below.
Yeah, it sort of like stretches and then breaks. You fall into some water. This dungeon is mostly spider themed.
Yeah.
It's a giant inside of a tree with a lot of spiders. You gotta shoot and stab all of them as many as you can. At the end of the day.
Yeah. Then you solve that one puzzle where some of those scrubs are shooting the seeds at you. You have to hit them in an order 2, 3, 1, if I remember.
Yeah.
Push some blocks around, hit some switches, and all of a sudden, we have our first boss of the game, which is still just so memorable. I do not think it's even close to the best boss in the game. It has that luster, though, that extra bump of just being the first one.
Yeah. Goma. Terrifying spider boss lady. So you've actually come across a couple different miniature Gomas, earlier in the dungeon. You
scared the shit out of me, to be honest. I turned around and there was 3 of them right there staring at me.
They're pretty crazy. They sort of like look at you and jump at you, and they have I think what looks like 3 legs. They're like tripods. But Goma has I think it looks like 6 legs, maybe only 4, but it's a giant spidery thing with a giant eye. It's sort of attacks you various ways. Usually what it does is it'll go up onto the ceiling and sort of spit eggs down, which will turn into little baby Gomas, chase after you. It also likes to try to jump on you from the ceiling. And it looks very terrifying. It was very scary as a small child.
Oh, for sure. And the baby Gomas to me always look like little scorpion guys. And the arena that you fight Goma in, it's like a foggy cavern that has these massive pillars. A big circular room, and it's very dark. So it was pretty terrifying.
I like to think of it as the heart of the tree.
Yeah, the heart of the tree. Mm-hmm. You're kind of in the roots, Yeah,
at this point you are pretty much in the lower portion.
That's where the life comes from, grabbing that nutrient from the ground.
Yeah, the plant's mouth, if you will.
All right, so that's Goma, our first boss. Very easy, let's be honest. The eyeball is so obvious. Slingshot the eyeball. Mm-hmm. She gets all googly, and you go and you hit her with your sword.
You slice her a couple times, and she's done so.
And so after beating the dungeon, of course, you get the frog. You get the heart and then you get to teleport up. And then we have another little story tidbit from our buddy Mr. Deku.
Yeah. So once you actually beat the evil inside of the tree, the curses that I've embodied into spiders, you pop out, and pretty much Mr. Sweet Deku Tree tells you, you know what? I'm gonna die. I'm like, I was gonna die before you went in there, but now I can die curse free, so that's cool. And he pretty much tells you, what's up. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you the story. And he tells you when, Hyrule was on fire, there's a great war. This is well before the setting of the game. And this woman who had been gravely injured brought her son with her, and the Deku Tree, seeing the potential in you and that you were supposed to do great things in the future, decided to take you in. As the woman expired, he became your essential surrogate parents, and raised you just like his children, which are all those sweet little baby, never aging children in the forest. Of course, you are not one of them, as it turns out. You are a normal Hylian, I think is the proper way to say this race of people.
I say Hylian too, Micah, so we're on the same page there.
So, yeah, but the Deku Tree decided to raise you as one of his own, knowing that in the future you would do great things. And what else does he say? Because that's pretty much all I have in my notes. Was there anything else he said that is worth talking about?
I think he tells you to go talk to Princess Zelda, or at least pushes you in that direction, and basically says that you got bigger things to worry about. So it's time for you to leave the forest.
And as he says that, he turns gray and dies.
He's like, but
it's funny because, literally, it's just sort of like this. Sounds like just a stretching sound.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like what I just did at all. That was just me being dramatic.
Yeah, but it's sad because the Deku Tree dies, and with him, all the love and cherished parentage to all the Kokiri children. So, sad day.
Yes, and unfairly, Kokiri children think that Link had something to do with the demise.
Yeah. They begin to talk about it and blame Link as he walks out. Mostly just that asshole bully guy, which he has a name, but I never can remember because I hate him and I don't care to know.
Probably like Peter or something. I don't know.
Peter or
I'm just Peter Pan because everything's so green and there's fairies. You put that in my head.
No, but in all honesty, though, I think that to some degree, Link's outfit, the story, the setting, they're all sort of like Peter Pan-esque. You're amongst children who never grow up. You're in a forest. You're wearing a green tunic. Fairies. It's all very Peter Pan-like. I think it is worth mentioning that that's what it's based off of, but, in its own cool way. In its Japanese way.
Yeah, for sure. But, I wasn't, thinking of that, and now it's I can't not think of Peter Pan.
Yep. No, I was a big fan of the movie Hook before I watched this.
Oh, well, we know, Mike, because
yeah.
our Patreons know.
Mm-hmm. Our patrons do know. Thank you for
that
listening.
episode. It's a good one.
Hell yeah.
That was a trip down nostalgia lane right there.
But yeah, you walk out, the Dekuchu's dead, and everyone sort of blames you, but you have bigger fish to fry. You've got a lot on your plate now. You realize you got to leave the forest where no one dares to leave if you're a Kokiri child.
Yeah, there's actually a sign at the exit that says, "Forest folks shall not leave the forest." And then a kid nearby says that Kokiri kids will die if they leave the forest. That's what that girl says, right by the door.
I don't know if that's because they will die because they are no longer in the forest, or they will die because it's dangerous out in the world, because as it turns out, it's a dangerous, big, bad world out there.
Yeah, and later on, late in the game, we actually see somebody from the Kokiri Forest who is not dead, and they're outside of the forest.
Yeah, I guess that's true, actually. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Kokiri children, even if they're not spirits, are out there alive.
Yes. So, it's probably just I don't know, maybe they've been brainwashed into fearing the outside world so much they won't leave. I don't know.
But also the way that the Deku Tree describes what was going on in the land of Hyrule before the events of the game. Everything was on fire, there's a big war, a lot of calamity, people are being slaughtered, men, women, children. So, maybe it's just better they didn't try to leave. Because if you could live in infinite bliss and childhood in a forest that, anyone who tries to penetrate and, invade just gets lost, it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not a bad time.
Not a bad time. I agree. And so Link, he's got courage, man. He's a strong boy. He doesn't care. The Deku Tree has given him a mission. And so he leaves the forest and he runs into Saria. on that bridge that kind of connects the forest to Hyrule Field. And she and him have a nice moment, and she kind of says, I knew you were different, like I knew you were going to leave the forest eventually. And she gives him the fairy ocarina.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not the Ocarina of Time.
This is just simply a good old memento.
This is a friendly
remember her
ocarina
by.
given from one friend to another. And so for the first time, we have the musical instrument, the ocarina, an ocarina.
She also teaches you how to play her song and tells you that she hopes that you will play it, think of her, and come back and visit.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of funny because that song is used a lot more in the second half of the game.
Yeah, although it does serve a very important purpose in the beginning, too.
Yeah.
Case in point, spoiler alert, every Goron loves that song.
Oh, yeah. They have a good time.
Yeah, they do have a good time. But yeah, so she teaches you that. It's a sad little moment. Link leaves. And then you're immediately faced with Hyrule Field.
Hoo-hoo.
Yeah, that is true, though. As you walk out of Hyrule Field, or is it before you actually get into the field, or is it right when you get into the field?
You're not in the field yet. You know how, like, entering the Kokiri Forest, there's that little not cavernous, but what's the world? You're in, like, a chasm, essentially, walking in.
Yeah.
And there's a couple trees in there, and there's an owl. Is the owl ever fully explained in this game?
No, I think the owl is just an old, wise character who works for the forces of good.
Yeah. For some reason, the whole game, I thought there was going to be this big reveal, and there never was. I kind of thought there was. But yeah, you meet this owl when you are exiting Kokiri Forest right before you get into the field. But there is like a cutscene of the forest, and you're like, holy shit, I can go anywhere in this field. It's one of those most amazing moments. I think one of the huge reasons this game was fun is because it's kind of like our first introduction to an open world game.
True.
Now, when you compare this, and I have a note in here, I wanted to make sure to talk about this. And this is why this episode's going to be so damn long. This is why we had to do 2 of them. This game was massive when we were kids.
Yes.
And now you think about this game, and it just seemed so much smaller playing it now than what the grandeur I have in my memories of playing it as a kid.
Totally.
It's because I've played things like Horizon Zero Dawn and Red Dead Redemption, Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, any of the Grand Theft Auto series since Vice City, man. Like
any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, even Persona 5, which is not an open world game, but you have a lot of flexibility on where to go, kind of shocked me. But I don't think it took away from the game at all. It just shows how crazy games are now, how far they've come.
Totally. I remember when I was a child, I was thinking like, wow, this is so open. This is so infinite. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. I could play this game forever and never get bored. And, compared to like open world games nowadays, this is very basic. But at the same time, when you're a kid and the world opens up to you with that music,
Oh, yeah.
you're just like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just gave me chills with that little sound effect there, Mike. It's insane.
The music in this game really knows how to get you going, But one of the biggest things about this game that I really like too is sort of like the open world aspect of it. It was one of the first games that really utilized this properly. It was obviously the first 3D Zelda game, so it had a chance to do that really well. And yeah, just having the open-ended ability to go and do what you want, when you want, where you want, felt awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it also has a day and night cycle, which was totally novel and new.
Hell yeah.
And things change. Like, as you change from day to night, there'll be ghosts that appear. There'll be skeletons that appear. The world will change, and you'll hear the wolf howl, and you're officially into night. But yeah, then you hear the rooster crow, and that starts off morning. And that was something I kind of forgot about. I forgot that the day-night cycle was pretty important part of this game.
So, real quick, did the owl say anything really important to you? I think it just told you to go see Princess Zelda, right?
Yeah, I think it just kind of talks about Hyrule Field and nothing too important.
Yeah, because one of the things I really wanted to point out about Hyrule Field right off the bat is that really quickly you've realized that no matter what you do, it doesn't matter if you're rolling the whole time, which I did figure out is a slightly faster way to travel as a child. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to hearing the hee ha hee ha ha hee ha. As Link is rolling across the field everywhere you go.
That was good.
Yeah, that's like what I always think about when I think about this game. It's funny because, okay, I'm going to get off on a little tangent here, but when I was a child, I used to always, we'd try to make movies out of video games, And I remember...
As you do.
Yeah, of course, because if you have a VHS recorder and the ability to plug your shit in through the VHS recorder and record it on a tape. You can edit it by, planning when to record and rewinding and all that stuff. But we'd always try to do it with Zelda, and every single time we were traveling, I never really realized how annoying it was until I was watching it. As a kid, I was like probably like 12, and I was like, wow, this is really annoying to watch when it's just like a bunch of like Link yelling as he rolls around the field, So yeah, but no, I loved it as a kid. That's the only way I traveled for the most part in this game until I got Ipana. That was how I traveled as well. But no matter how fast you try to go, you will never be able to get from Kokiri Woods to the castle before it turns night. Right when you get there, that damn wolf will howl. You'll hear the sound of the bridge going up. You can never catch it in time to actually get inside. And then every single evening, when you were a child Link, you'll be faced with evil skull children.
Yep. Endless amounts of them.
Yeah. They will infinitely come no matter how many kill. More will come. As you kill more, you're going to get cool pickups. If you kill enough, eventually a big one will come out too. And he drops a bunch of rupees, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a fun fact.
It is a fun fact.
Okay.
But yeah, they pretty much just like pester you in the the wilderness at nighttime. So
yeah. I feel like when you just said that story about never being able to reach there by daytime, I feel like you just opened up something in the back of my head of something we used to try to do as kids. It was try to get there before the night would set.
I used to always try to do that as a kid, never did. As it turns out, at least at the beginning of the game, that's not something you can do. Doesn't matter how much you roll.
They probably designed it that way.
Yeah,
for sure. And they also designed night to go by very quickly. Like once I remembered, oh yeah, there is a day-night cycle. I expected to have to wait a while. Night goes by
it's like 5 minutes.
I don't even know if it's 5 minutes. I swear it was like 2 minutes, and it was day again.
Yeah, I gotta say, one of the things about it is that you can fight off waves of the skull children, but you have to fight them quickly to be able to get a big one to appear because it will turn light and they will disappear with the daylight. So,
okay, I have the official time that night takes. How long do you think it is?
Let's say 4 minutes.
1 minute and 20 seconds.
Are you serious?
I swear. I'm telling you, when I was playing the game, I was shocked at how quickly night went by.
Wow. I guess I don't want to really make you too bored or scared right off the bat.
How long do you think daytime lasts?
12 minutes.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Damn.
That's crazy, right?
That's a quick turnaround.
It's a quick turnaround. It's because in certain, like when you're in towns, the time doesn't change normally. It's really only when you're in Hyrule Field.
Yeah.
And so we're just not in it that often.
I'll say the time changes when you're in Hyrule Field. Any of the routes going to a dungeon. It also changes when you're in the castle area before you actually get inside.
Oh yeah, that is true. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
there are various areas where it changes.
But the field is the main one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but when you're in Kokiri Village or when you're in Kokiri Forest, they don't change.
Yeah,
the time
stays the same. Okay, so yeah, we've spent our first night out there fighting skull children for approximately a minute. And then, the gates open up with the rays of the sun, and you can finally go inside the village, which is a bustling little city. I remember feeling like it was chock full of characters, but there's like 7.
Yeah, it is only like 7, but there's a lot of people there. Mm-hmm. You can only talk to like 7. Now, it's a very Bavarian theme, like a German, Munich, Southern German style theme. At least that's what the vibe I got.
Yeah.
When you walk into the village, directly to Link's right, to the viewer's left, there's a bunch of people cheering, and somebody says something about a chicken or a cuckoo. Are they watching a cockfight?
I don't know, I don't remember.
I think they are, man. Like, what else could they be doing? They're all cheering, and somebody says something like, oh, the cuckoo is whatever.
You know what's funny? I actually did not talk to them this time. I used to always go over there and try to talk to them as a kid, and I just do not remember what they say.
Well,
it's been a while.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the vibe I got from it.
Cockfight, probably.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. There are a couple of sexual references in this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if animal fighting was another thing they referenced in this game too.
For a second, I thought you thought I meant a cockfight was too
Two dudes just whipping their cock around.
and then you said animal fighting. I was like, all right, he knows what a cockfight is.
I wanted to reiterate that, cockfight and whipping your dick out is two different things.
They are two different things. You worried me for a second. All right, yeah, no, chicken fights.
Hell yeah. But dude, yeah, once you finally get in the gate, you can stick around and talk to people in the village, sort of, fuck around, have a good time. But I went straight to business this playthrough. Went to the castle. Went to go sneak in there. Now, this is actually one of my favorite parts of the whole entire game.
Really?
Yeah. You got to sneak in to see Zelda, but if the guards see you, they will throw you out of the gate.
Yes. It's a little stealth action here.
Yep. And it was always my favorite part as a child. And I think, honestly, it gave me the most, nostalgic jolt playing it as an adult. So you only really get to do this one time in the game. You'll do sneaking around like this elsewhere, but to sneak into the castle, you only get to do it once.
Mm-hmm.
So, long story short, when you first go into this area where the castle is situated, you got a huge old gate to your right. You're unable to traverse the, steep hill to your left. And you quickly see a little girl standing close by who's singing a song. You talk to her and she tells you that her dad's somewhere over there, but he probably fell asleep and she doesn't really know where he is. She gives you a chicken.
Oh, yes. A cock, if you will.
Mm-hmm. She gives you a cock and she sends you on your way. Now, this next bit, though, you have to climb up some vines, sneak around. You have to sneak out of the guard's field of vision. And then you do a little swimming in a moat. And then you come across the sleepy farmer. This girl was talking about her dad, who is dead asleep.
Mm-hmm. And the girl's name is Malin, and she says her dad's name is Talon.
Yeah. And Malin and Talon, I always called her Malon, which probably isn't correct, but, considering that his name is definitely Talon. But anyway, long story short, her dad's asleep. He's been, delivering some milk. He's right next to a couple boxes. You use that chicken to wake him up. He wakes up. He realizes that he's left his daughter all alone in the city. He takes off running. Then you get to use his milk crates to solve the next little climbing puzzle to get inside the castle.
I mean, is there a worse way to be woken up than by a cock?
Depends on who you ask.
I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. But yes, you use the milk crates, you sneak into the castle.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the wholesome conversation now.
Indeed. Family fun for everyone to enjoy. But yeah, you get into the castle. There's essentially like a little it looks like a drainage area, but you're small enough as a child to climb into it, and you go inside. Once again, more stealth action. You're trying to evade the guards as you make your way through the castle's what looks like an indoor garden area,
courtyardish garden area. The music is super silly.
Mm-hmm. It is.
You should look it up if you've never played the game. It's just like super fun, happy, silly music.
I always love the little.
Yeah,
it just sounds like some bad song from the 40s, and I like it.
It's really goofy music, but it's like perfect at the same time. And I remembered this scene being so much harder as a kid. I zipped through these stealth scenes this time.
It's a lot easier when you're not a fucking child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most things are.
When you are an adult and you have the skills and the brain of an adult, these bits are a lot easier. But also, it's a really fun, easy part of the game. And then, once you kind of sort of make your way through the courtyard, you do come across the chance to get some cool Easter eggs, but also Zelda.
Yes. That's where earlier we were talking about the Mario pictures. Mm-hmm. I think this is where you were saying you can shoot the
window.
Slingshot. Yeah. So this is it. This is the first meeting of Zelda and Link, our two main characters.
Totally. We have the Triforce of Courage and the Triforce of Wisdom embodied meeting for the first time. But so you make your way in, and you sort of walk up to Zelda, who's looking through a window, and she turns around. She looks scared at first, but then she looks sure of herself, and she's sort of asking you who you are, and she tells you that she had a dream that, sort of a premonition that this would happen. Mm-hmm. And, you guys begin to talk, get some real talk in there. Yeah,
so at this point we get a cutscene and a story explanation. Mm-hmm. And I think in the game on the whole, there's 90 minutes of cutscenes in total. I think I read that. So there are a lot of exposition moments in this game, kind of explaining what's going on, which also was pretty unique back in the day. I think that's also what made this game so amazing, as you were really vested in being the hero of time and understanding what's happening in this land and making sure that you protect everybody. And I don't know, the cutscenes were really great as a kid, and I still really enjoyed them during this playthrough. So Zelda explains what the Temple of Time is, that it was built basically to prevent the evil ones from getting the Triforce. She talks about the Triforce and that when all three are obtained, it will grant the person one wish. If a pure of heart individual gets the Triforce, that person will bring Hyrule into the Golden Age, while an evil one will put Hyrule into chaos. She explains that the door of time in the Temple of Time can only be opened when you collect 3 Spirit Stones, and we already have one that we got from the Great Deku Tree when we beat the Deku Dungeon. And so now we know that we need to collect 2 more, because Ganondorf, who basically is at the castle, and you look through a window and you see him, she says that she thinks he's the one who's trying to collect the Triforce and be the evil side, the evil one trying to put Hyrule into chaos.
You sort of see him kneeling before the king, and she's like, he may kneel, but I can sense his bad intentions.
Mm-hmm. And there's that creepy moment where you're looking at him and he's kneeling and he quickly looks over at you.
Yeah.
And you pee a little bit in your pants because it's scary.
It is pretty scary. But also that scene is pretty funny. I saw this picture recently. It was a little comic and someone drew it. She's like, well, you look through the window to see this man. And then it's just the two of you with your nose is pressed up against the window. And he's looking at you. But no, seriously, it's such an iconic moment of this game. And it does a really good job, particularly at the time. These sort of moments just felt so dramatic. They really, put a lot of emphasis on camera angles and, having different, the facial stuff changed a little bit too, People had expressions and dialogue and they explained things and talked about things that were emotional and meaningful. Didn't really experience this kind of stuff on a game before now. So, my first playthrough and as a kid, this stuff hit me because it was this is the first time I'd ever seen anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it took some of the elements from A Link to the Past and really fleshed them out with new technology. Mm-hmm. Because in A Link to the Past, you have your guardian. I don't know if I think he's your grandfather dying in the hallway when he's going to protect Hyrule Castle and try to save Zelda and everything. It's that, and they knew they wanted to do that back in the day, and they just took all of that and made it so much more emotional. It just, I don't know, man. I still got chills throughout this game with scenes like this, just because mostly because it would take me back to when I was a kid and I hadn't seen some of these things in so long.
Totally.
But yeah, it totally lands still. It totally works very well.
Yeah, I just remember the face of worry on Zelda whenever she's explaining this stuff to you just always made me feel something as a child. You're just whoa, I have to save everybody. This is real,
If I don't do this, I'm dooming Hyrule.
Yeah, it just made you so much more invested in what you were doing. Mm-hmm. I just never experienced that before this game, so I wanted to give a shout out to that shit. It's cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. So we then meet Impa, the buff Sheikah, and she is Zelda's attendant. And they have to leave, but Zelda makes sure to teach you Zelda's lullaby before. You could definitely argue this is the most iconic song in the game.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite personally, but it's the song you probably play the most by 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. You play it a lot in this game.
Yeah, you do.
Probably 10 times, dude. I mean, what other song are you playing as much other than possibly the Sun Song to change day to night?
So I would say that you actually do play the Temple of Time or that song a lot.
Prelude of Time, yeah.
Yeah, because you do that actually has a lot of functionality outside of just simply warping you.
That's the Song of Time. The Prelude of Time takes you back to the Temple of Time, yeah.
Yeah, so the Song of Time is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that does actually serve a function other than just simply being a cool ditty you can play on your instrument. But, yeah, no, this is the most iconic song. This is probably the most iconic moment of the video game for me, anyway. I don't know if that's true all around. But yeah, no. Cool song. You learn it, and Impa sort of, she says that her nanny is going to take care of you. She's going to take you out and make sure you're safe. And she's just a badass, like you were saying.
Impa's very cool.
She's built. She's cool. She's also willing to keep a secret.
Mm-hmm. And so we know at this point we're supposed to head to Kakariko Village, nearby Hyrule Town. Mm-hmm. And you pretty much know, I mean, we've played the game, so we knew we were supposed to go up to Death Mountain. But that is our next Spirit Stone that we need to collect. Mm-hmm. Now, quick sidebar. I mentioned the Sun Song a second ago. We keep talking about how there's so much to do in this game, and that's why it's great. If you go to the graveyard and you play Zelda's Lullaby at the topmost platform, it has the Triforce on it in front of like this big tomb. You will get the Sun Song. It's a pretty ongoing theme. If you see a Triforce on the ground and you play Zelda's Lullaby, something will happen.
Yeah. No, this is referred to as Zelda's Lullaby because that's what essentially she was always lulled to sleep with. But this is a royal song that goes back for generations. It's sort of like the musical symbol of the royal family or those who speak for them. So a lot of times the puzzles require you to prove that you are sent by the royal family by playing this musical tune.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's just get into Death Mountain Trail then, and then into the second dungeon.
Totally. So leading up to Death Mountain, it's a rocky, scary place, full of monsters. You sort of make your way up eventually, and you do come across some Gorons, and they all seem to be talking about being hungry. They don't really seem super into it. As you continue to go on, though, you will come to the Goron village, which is sort of inside. It's further up the mountain. But once you actually go out there, you begin to talk to the Gorons who sort of say, like, oh, like, our boss is sort of grumpy right now. He's in a bad mood. And if you actually do go to the boss guy, he is definitely in a grumpy mood. And, if you talk to all the Gorons, you pretty much quickly learn that every Goron likes the song Soraya Song. So, if you've been paying attention, or maybe if you haven't, if you just want to, like, mess around, or if you've just tried a bunch of different stuff and you got stuck at this point, you whip out your ocarina, it makes that noise that tells you that's what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. You play Soraya Song. If you've been talking to the Gorons, you hear that every Goron loves that song. So you play it. I think someone actually says that he needs to hear some music or something, It's like, oh, maybe some music could cheer him up. So you play that song, and it's the only song you know at this point, other than Zelda's Lullaby. And I love that thing where it, like, zooms in as the song's playing to his face, and he sort of, like, has a straight face. And then all of a sudden, he's just, like, dancing. He's having a great time. He's like, oh, that song. I love that song. I can't get enough of this song. But anyway, you cheer him up, and he's, it suddenly goes from being grumpy to being receptive.
And then he's like your homeboy.
Yeah, he's like, oh, cool. Are you here for this shit? Well, that's cool. But, like, hey, we got this problem with the cavern. Some guy came here and cursed it. It's full of all these enemies now. We all of us Gorons, we have a gourmet taste palette now. We can only eat the rocks that come from this cavern now because that's all we like. These other rocks, they suck, but we really like the rocks in this cavern. Essentially, it's like these are like T-bone steak quality,
Did this remind you of anything?
I'm not sure what you're getting at, but no.
Rock Eater from Neverending Story.
Oh, I didn't even think twice about that.
I immediately thought of that guy. This had to have been inspired from Rock Eater of Neverending Story. Because he's like, I only eat gourmet rocks, that in that movie.
Yeah, you're very right. That's actually very true.
It made me laugh because I had never seen Neverending Story until this show. So
interesting. I would not have thought about that if you hadn't pointed it out, but that's very true.
Yeah.
So yeah, he explains the plight of the Gorons. They all love these rocks in this cavern. They can't eat anything else because they've learned what good flavor tastes like. But now it's full of enemies and no one can get near it. It's also sealed off. They don't know what to do. And so he says, you know what? The stone you want, I'll give it to you. But first you have to clear out this dungeon for me.
Yes.
He sends a child to do an adult Goron's job.
Yes, a man who is like literally 5 times Link's size. Mm-hmm. But hey, we got courage. We got the power of the T-Force to the max here. And we don't back down from a challenge.
No, hell no.
And so we go to Dodongo's cavern.
So I want to point out one thing before we go. He gives us a pair of gloves that lets us pick up.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Previously, there were bomb flowers that we could see, but we couldn't pick up because they were too heavy. He gives us a pair of gloves that allows us to do such things. Opening up the world to infinite possibilities. Not least of which is now you can finally go up to an upper ledge, grab that bomb flower, throw it down there, and open up Dodongo's cavern so that you can go in there and slay some fucking Dodongos.
Mm-hmm. I have a note in here that I didn't remember a lot of the game from this point moving forward. I remembered everything, knew everything I was supposed to do. Then by the time I got to the Goron City, I just really didn't remember anymore.
Yeah.
I think I just played the early portions of this game so many times as a kid. And also because they were the first things you did in the game, they were just so memorable.
Yeah.
That in many ways, I had to relearn so much of this game. It was like figuring out brand new puzzles and everything. And then every once in a while, there would just be a very specific thing that I would remember. Like, oh, I remember that. Like, why do I remember that? And I didn't remember the last 30 minutes, and I don't remember the next 30 minutes, but that specific thing I remember, like, vividly. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird experience playing this game.
I mean, I've probably played this way more than you have over the years, so a lot of it I remembered super well. But the beginning of this game definitely does stand out to me because I played it so many times as a kid, started this game over so many times. Before we owned it, we rented it from Blockbuster all the time and never beat it. So every single time we rented it, we had to restart it. So once again, the beginning of the game is super iconic to me. But, you know, it was always a rush to try to beat that game before a week was up.
Yeah. I wonder where my 2 golden copies are. I've mentioned on the show several times that my friend borrowed them, and then they magically disappeared.
Your quote-unquote friend, quote-unquote borrowed
Yes.
them.
Quote-unquote. Fuck you, man. I could have those still.
We gotta find him and fight him.
You know, he's okay. He went through some rough patches. I'll let it go.
We've all been through some rough patches.
You stole my Zeldas! Anyway, so yeah, we get into Dodongo's Cavern. Now, we just climbed up a mountain that is a volcano. It's called Death Mountain Trail. So we know this is going to be like a lava-themed level. And if you've just ever played a Zelda game, you know there's always a lava level.
It's almost always Death Mountain, too.
It's almost always Death Mountain. Exactly. Like every iteration of Zelda has something like this. So Death Mountain, here we are again. And that is the main theme. That's the main atmosphere of the game. It's lava everywhere, lots of bats, some on fire, which, if they hit your shield, there are fire bats in this stage, right?
I do believe so.
Because there was one area I lost my shield and I didn't have it for the rest of my childhood.
You never bought a new one?
I never bought a new one. And it was a total... Because I did. I lost it in Dodongo's Cavern, and I did not have it during Jabu Jabu's Belly, the 3rd dungeon. Total pain in the ass.
Okay, I'm going to say this real quick. In Dodongo's Cavern, you can pick up another shield.
For a second, I was thinking that I had a moment where I could have bought one from one of the Deku Scrubs. I don't think that was in this cavern, though. And it might have been, but I...
Oh, it actually was. That's what I'm thinking of.
Okay,
I don't think it was just...
I saw that guy before I lost my shield. And then I lost my shield near the end, and I just didn't have a shield for the rest.
It is a shame. I don't know about you, but by the time I got halfway through this dungeon, my money was already maxed out, so I was looking for a reason to spend it.
Did that surprise you? I know already you mentioned this earlier in the episode, but I felt like money was so scarce playing this as a kid. I felt no pressure with money in this game. I always had so much cash. Plus, there was the place in Hyrule Town where you could walk into the room right when you enter Hyrule Town after the drawbridge, and you could just get infinite coins, go in and out, in and out, in and out.
I mean, I used to do that as a kid all the time, yeah, but you're only getting ones, you know?
No, there was a blue and a red. There was a red when you're an adult. There was a blue as a kid.
But you have to put in the effort to get those. I remember as a kid, I would go in there and just get as much coins as I needed by doing the repeat, but at the same time, I was never, like, super into it.
Fair. Like,
doing the repetitive stuff. But that being said, in this playthrough, I never wanted for cash. I always had as much as I needed. Every single time, unless my wallet was not big enough.
Yeah, same way. Other than the very beginning when we had to buy the shield, I had zero money problems the entire game. Mm-hmm. So, right off the bat, when you enter Dodongo's Cavern, very cool design.
Love it.
Giant skull just staring at you. Mm-hmm. And you kind of know that you need to open up that skull mouth.
Yeah, it's like a lizard dragon skull.
Dragon skull thing, yeah. A very, very cool design when you enter, and it's a little intimidating, but also very exciting because you know you get inside that lizard.
Hell yeah. You get to go in deep inside that lizard. Yeah, so as you progress, you sort of like get all this other stuff to be able to traverse better, open up new pathways, things drop down, etc., etc. But one of the greatest things is eventually you do get this center room that has sort of like a metal platform, lava, and a couple different pillars going up and down. Eventually, you actually do get to the point where you go above the skull, mm-hmm. and you read a sign, and it says, "When I see red, the way will be opened," or something like that. So if you're a kid and you've tried everything, eventually you'll drop a bomb down in there. Mm-hmm. You blow up his eyeball. He sees red, and you do it for both eyes. That opens his mouth. that opens the way to the boss. I love how that happens.
Very, very cool. And I also think that's a great design to have the level so vertical where you're in this central room that you start into. You go into all these other areas, but you still come back. But now you're coming back way above, and you wouldn't even have known those bridges were there when you first entered the room.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're seeing this room from a perspective that you didn't expect. It's just a very cool design.
Yeah, totally. I think, we discussed previously in episodes, particularly when we were talking about things like Doom, how that's sort of like, everything's sort of like, it's sort of a horizontal expansion, but, games as they progressed through the 90s started to get more vertical, started to stack, and started to do more intricate type puzzles like this. So Zelda is a great example of the evolution of that, if you ask me.
And I also think with Link to the Past, they obviously wanted to make levels vertical because they would have the levels where you would fall off and you go doo doo doo, and you'd fall down to another area. But you can't really represent that if you're not in a 3D plane, right? They really took advantage of that design philosophy with Ocarina of Time, and I really think that's why the dungeons are so good in this game.
Hell yeah.
The dungeon designs are amazing.
Yeah, they're really amazing, but also having now played Link to the Past and then going back and playing through Ocarina, I see the evolution of the series, and it makes me appreciate it a lot more playing through now.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. So throughout this level, or this dungeon, you fight a bunch of lizards too, and they are super hard as a kid. Those lizards are pretty damn strong when you fight them as a child.
They're sort of like the mini bosses of this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And you fight them 2 different times. Lava everywhere. And you also get a bomb bag. And you can hold 20 bombs right off the bat. I think earlier I said you get an upgrade to 20. I think you get it upgraded to 30 if I remember.
Yeah. It's getting those bombs is fucking central to being able to solve things, because previously you were only able to sort of use the bomb flowers that were present at this stage. But now you only use those when they're present because it's cheaper than using your bombs. Now you have the ability to use those bombs. But dude, those Lizalfos, I think is what they're officially called, were some of the most scary enemies when you're fucking 9 years old playing this game. 9, 10, whatever. This came out in 98, so I would have been like 10, 11,
They were scary, and there was 2 of them, and they came at you, and it was kind of freaky.
And they're like squeaking and making weird noises, and they just seem very like otherworldly. So, but yeah, they have swords, and they are very good at, tricking you into thinking you're not going to get hit. They'll jump over you and then stab you in the back. They're difficult enemies when you first fight them. You learn as you go, though. So eventually, if you're not an absolute idiot like I was as a child, you'll be able to defeat them.
Yeah. I have a quick correction because we got the bomb bag, and I had written here that you have 20 bombs. The first gold Skolata, a beverage.
Yes, I just popped one.
The first gold Skolata is the adult wallet, so you can go to 200. That is, we had said that it was a bigger bomb bag. So I just want to correct that. The Skolatas never will get you a bigger bomb bag. It goes adult's wallet, then the Stone of Agony or the Shard of Agony, depending what you play, which tells you where secrets are. Giant's wallet, bomb chew, piece of heart, huge rupee. Now, piece of heart is 50. Huge rupee is 100. There's literally nothing from 51 to 99. Nothing.
That's insane to me. And also, just considering that the stuff you got earlier on was so cool, kind of wish there was cooler stuff, but also at that point, if you're just collecting, it's more about that. It's the journey, not the destination at that point.
Yeah, those last 50 are just for bragging rights, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a very cool dungeon. There was one section I wanted to point out because it was the first time in a while in the last like 30 minutes or 45 or an hour of playing this game where I was like, I remember this so vividly because I had mentioned earlier, things were just kind of like flashing back randomly. There's an area where there's like a line of bomb flowers surrounding a pillar.
Oh, I love that part.
And like I immediately knew how to solve it. And I immediately remembered from when I
thing.
was 11 years old playing this game. You put a bomb in, it blows them all up, and the massive explosion of all the bomb flowers exploding knocks down this pillar into like a staircase, essentially.
So, but as a kid, the first thing you want to do is you want to pick those bomb flowers and then try to blow everything up. But you cannot do it that way. You have to place a bomb on that thing. That's the one thing I didn't remember immediately. But yeah, I remember that you're supposed to blow them all up at the same time. Like, once again, I probably haven't played that part in a very long time, but it knew right off the bat.
Yeah, me too. It was weird. And because if you pick one up, it kind of breaks the chain, I guess. But yeah, it was very crazy.
Very crazy indeed.
Very crazy. So now we get to play the one and only internal dinosaur, King Dodongo.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the most iconic bosses for me as a child. Definitely always had a chance to face off against him. Even if I rented it and didn't get a chance to play too long on the playthrough, almost always would at least make it this far, you know. You get super distracted when you're, you know, a child, when you're renting a video game and an open world game at that. A lot of times you just roll around the whole entire field for 6 days and then return it. But almost always I fought off against Dodongo, so I remember this very vividly, exactly what you're supposed to do.
I didn't.
Really?
It had been a long time since I had played it. I kind of had no memory of this boss at all, to be honest.
Hell yeah. This honestly is one of my favorite bosses. He's not difficult. It takes you a minute to figure out exactly what you're supposed to do to be able to hurt him. But King Dodongo essentially rolls around the room and you have to dodge him, which you can do by getting very close to the lava in the center, or you can just continue to run around. Eventually he hits a wall, he stops, he goes out on all fours, and then he decides to pull in a lot of air. He does a large inhale, and then he'll exhale, blowing fire at you. Not too difficult to dodge, but the trick to actually dealing him damage is when he's doing that big inhale. You pull out a bomb, you throw it, he inhales it, it explodes, he goes down, and that's when you get your sword on his face. Hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all over his face.
All over his face. As we do. Yeah, very cool boss. Another thing I think we should point out with the move to 3D is the sense of scale. And I really think they nail it in this game.
Yeah.
When this boss battle starts, it shows him, it has the little cutscene, it's very cinematic. And then it starts with him very close to you, like directly in front of you, to make it seem like this massive battle and just to build a lot of tension.
Yeah.
I think that's very cool too. So
Totally.
very cool boss, yeah.
Something we should point out too, in the whole entire dungeon, you've come across small Dodongos. Very small ones that sort of like almost like slither at you. And then eventually you come across larger ones that are 2 armed and sort of dragging their back half at you. And they will do the inhale and blow fire. And so you actually, to be able to defeat them, learn that you can throw bombs and they will inhale and blow up. But
that is true.
Yeah, but this guy is so much bigger. He's so much more scary. And he's the real deal. He's ready to fucking destroy you. But one thing I really like too is, you know, it's a circular arena around a pit of lava. So you only have so many places you can go to get out of the way.
Yeah.
It feels very constricted, you know. It feels very like almost claustrophobic considering how large the boss is.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a philosophical question here, Mike.
Let's go for it.
What gives the Gorons more right to the delicious rocks than the Dodongos?
I think at the end of the day, it's just a struggle for survival, and the Gorons probably don't hold it against the Dodongos, but the Dodongos will try to kill the Gorons if they see them. Thus, it is a battle that is just evolutionarily built into each and every one of them. They're not intelligent, the Dodongos, so they cannot be reasoned with. Thus, the Gorons have to defeat them to be able to eat their delicious rocks. So, you know, the struggle between the Goron versus Dodongo is one of evolution, but the struggle between the Goron intelligence and the Dodongo stupidity is one of superiority, and thus that's what gives them the right at the end of the day.
Well said.
The Goron stops and thinks about the rocks he wants to eat. The Dodongo never stops and thinks.
They just eat.
They just eat.
Okay. I think that is about as good as you can answer that question.
As deep as I could get, sir.
That was good. No, that was good, sir. I am mightily impressed.
I feel great after that answer.
Tingly?
Very.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you know what? One thing I really like, though, when you succeed in doing this, it's a great feeling. You know, this is the first real big boss you fought, other than the spider in the Deku tree. But at the same time, this just felt so much more grave and so much more massive and scary. And the first time you defeat this boss when you're a kid, man, that feeling is just one of utter victory.
Yeah, because you actually have to figure it out. Goma is so obvious. Like, it's a giant eyeball, and everything else is very muted. Our great Dodongo here, you don't know immediately what to do. You have to think about it.
There's nothing really spelled out for you. But if you are a gamer and you've played games like this in the past, you know that usually you're given the things you need to solve the puzzle with before you solve the puzzle, and usually not in a great amount of advance. So, bombs, it makes sense, you know? And you're sort of, if you're smart, if you've been smart throughout this dungeon, you've already cleared off enough Dodongos to know that that's sort of their weakness. So, it takes a second, but if you connect those dots, it's a lot of fun. But you do have to think. It's not obvious.
Yeah.
So, worth pointing out. Yes.
Yep, very cool. So then after we beat this, we get another heart. We get the Fire Stone or whatever the Spirit Stone is for Death Mountain Trail. 2 down, 1 to go. We go to the Great Fairy Fountain at this point, though, onto the top of Death Mountain.
Important.
And she will actually give you magic for the first time.
Yeah.
And so we should talk about Great Fairy Fountains. Every Zelda has Great Fairy Fountains. You can find them. You have to search them out. They're always a little hidden. And every Zelda game kind of handles them a little bit differently. And they're all kind of horrifying in their design, let's be honest.
They always look overtly sexual.
Overtly sexual, almost like prostitutes.
They certainly don't grow a lot of vines over their body, only in the important places.
Only, but barely, and it's almost like they're wearing like a cheetah. You know what I mean? It's got like a cheetah.
It's like a print leotard.
Like a print leotard. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, they're always exciting when you find them because they give you something good and they'll always heal you and all your magic. And so this Great Fairy on Death Mountain Trail, she gives you magic, which gives you a more powerful spin. She also says to go talk to her sister at the dead end near Hyrule Castle, which you would have actually seen earlier, but you weren't able to access because you needed bombs, and it was pretty obvious that that wall looked different, that you could blow it up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little hint too. And then, so now we have magic, which comes into play more later in the game for sure.
We also have an adopted brother now.
Oh, yeah.
Leader of the Gorons says that you guys are now brothers. He loves you because you saved his people. You opened up the cavern and now they can enjoy their rocks again. And you're quite strong for such a little guy. So, now you guys are basically family.
I apologize. I skipped that whole scene with Darunia, our brother.
It's just an important little note to make because as a child, that always made me feel really good.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? We're brothers now. We're brothers.
Oh, the Gorons are super likable.
Yeah. They're just sort of I don't know. They're sort of just like dudes who enjoy doing what they're doing. They're a little bit rough and gruff, but also they're the kind of dudes who just like having a good time. And they like other people to have a good time too. I mean, you want to be friends with the Gorons.
Yes. In if you compare it to Tolkien-esque fantasy,
they're dwarves.
They're dwarves, and the Zoras are the elves, who we'll be seeing shortly.
These are dwarves, but in some ways also hobbits. Only in the way that they like to party,
Yeah. Eat all the time.
The Kokiri children are hobbits. In all honesty, with these guys, yeah. Same.
Yeah, and so we have 2 Spirit Stones. We have our brother and a whole race behind us now.
Yeah. We're now a hero. Through.
We have proven to be a hero, even though in Kokiri Village we were the slayer of our parent. We are now a hero, okay? So for the first time, we've done something good for people.
Yeah.
The owl, if you go to the very top and you go to the Fairy Mountain, there you can go into the Great Crater. It's way too hot and you will die if you stay there. There's like a timer counting down.
Don't do it, guys.
Just don't do it. Obviously, you're going to go there later in the game. It kind of sets that up and teases you a little bit. But then that owl, he says hello again, and he says he'll take you down to the bottom of the village, back to Kakariko Village. And so you stand there and he carries you down. It has another cool first-person view.
I love the owl first-person view shit because it just harkens back to the original fairy shot. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty cool. It zooms in and you get a bird's eye perspective of all the things you couldn't see from that view. Yeah. So it's cool. It's always a little treat when that happens.
Yes, quite the treat.
Indeed.
We are back in Kakariko Village. We haven't talked about it at all. That is a place you'll be a lot of the game.
It is indeed. You spend a lot of time there, whether or not you just want to do random shit or not, Let me ask you though, before you went up to the mountain, did you get all the cuckoos, all the chickens?
I did.
I did too. I love collecting those goddamn chickens.
Yeah. So there's a little side quest, little mini game, I guess, where a lady's like, "Oh, my cuckoos, they're everywhere. Help me find them." And I think there's 6 or 7 of them, and you have to track them all down and throw them in her pen.
It's kind of hard too. You have to learn how to use cuckoos to be able to get around too. Yeah. I really like how the last two you have to find. It's always the last two for me whenever I do this quest.
Those are by far the trickiest.
Yeah.
I know which ones you're talking about.
You have to grab one. You have to get up to where the windmill is. You have to use that to jump over, just barely able to cross the fence. You get down there, you have to throw that one back out. There's another one on the ground you have to throw out. And then you have to climb up a ladder, go behind the windmill, get the other one, and throw it out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're all hidden in crazy places. Some of them are up on top of buildings. Some of them are like inside of boxes. But you find all of them. You help her out because apparently she's allergic to her own chickens and can't handle them.
She's allergic to cock.
Oh.
God damn it.
God damn it.
Okay.
But yeah, she's got an allergy. You tell her that's cool and you're going to help her. You get all those things. What's the reward for that? I think it's a bottle, right?
Yes, it's a bottle.
That's the first bottle you
Because
get.
when you're an adult, that same lady will give you the egg that hatches into the blue chicken.
Yeah, as it turns out, she actually breeds chickens that she's no longer allergic to. They are pocket cocks.
Pocket cocks. Hey, I know about those.
Oh, yeah. But
did I just tell everybody I have like a really small cock? Because wouldn't that be a pocket cock? Because when you say something like a pocket whatever, it means it's a miniature version of the normal thing.
I'm just saying, the Game Boy Pocket was significantly smaller than the Game Boy.
Yes.
Which Game Boy are you rocking, Jono? Don't answer that question.
Hey, can we just move on? Micah,
Anyway.
all right, can we just move on to the next thing?
So you help her out of her bind, you get that bottle. This is the fun thing. You don't have to do this all in order. Like, you literally could come to this after you've already been an adult and you've transformed back into a child to solve this way after the fact. You don't have to do this thing in a linear fashion. So, but you know me, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. If I know how to do something, I'm going to do it first before I do anything else. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I got that bottle as quickly as I could.
Yeah. The bottles are key. I mean, once you get the third, though, you really don't need that fourth one like we already talked about.
The fourth bottle is a luxury.
Yeah, this one's a clutch one. You have to get this bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So then at this point, we know we're supposed to go to the east of the map, kind of near, in between Kakariko Village and where Kokiri Forest is.
Yeah.
This is the Zora domain, and this is in search of the final Spirit Stone.
Indeed.
Okay, so Micah, we are now en route, you might say, to Waterworld itself, the Zora domain. And, I mean, all of these areas I think we're in, they're all in like Link to the Past, but this just fleshes everything out so much more.
Yep, it does.
We have characters now. This is what they look like now.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think, you would earlier described the situation where you sometimes remember things and sometimes don't. It's funny because, in all honesty, I don't know. So a lot of times when I played this game, I played it with my siblings, and we took turns, When we were playing through a Zelda game, we all watched each other play, but we all took turns playing through it. Because in all honesty, worst case scenario, if your brother dies a bunch, you're just going to start back at wherever, and it'll be fine, It's not like you get a game over in this game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you do, but it's like not that terrible. Anyway, long story short, I don't remember playing through the Zora's domain area, I don't remember traversing the rivers. I don't remember figuring out the puzzles. I sure as hell don't remember those lovely frog guys who love it when you play their music.
Oh, yeah. You don't remember those?
Nope.
I didn't actually go through that whole thing, but I definitely did as a child. Like, you play them more and more songs, and I think they keep growing. But I didn't play this as an adult. I completely avoided that. But they are cute, the little frogs.
They're very cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is cool because it's pretty much exactly like in A Link to the Past. It's a river system that runs through very tight corridors. In this case, though, instead of Zoras shooting fireballs, there are Octoroks shooting rocks at you. Like you said, they're pretty much Deku scrubs, but in the water. They're the same enemy type. They do exactly the same thing, and when you get close, they go underwater instead of into their little hidey hole, as it were. But yeah, no, this area is cool because it's a little bit different. If you mess up, you fall into the river, and it forces you all the way back down to the beginning. So, it takes a little bit of patience, timing, and, judging your jumps and distances to get through. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about this area. There are 2 heart container pieces in this area. Did you get both of them right off the bat, or did you come back and get them later?
I came back and got them, and I actually only got one of them. I saw the other one. And I literally remember thinking to myself,
So this
I
time,
don't want to fuck with that.
this playthrough, I stopped at nothing to get both pieces before I went all the way to the top and talked to the Zoras, which is actually pretty fun because it's difficult, and I probably fell down the river like 5-6 times before I finally got both of them. But it was fun. It was worth it.
Yeah, well, we should mention then, because that is a good lead-in, because you can buy these seeds, and you can plant the seeds, and also, so there's dirt patches on the ground that you will see throughout childhood Link, right? And you'll see them later in adult Link if you don't plant anything. You can catch bugs in bottles in this game. Some of those areas, I think most of them, if you pour bugs into those dirt patches, there's like a little black hole in the middle of these dirt patches. A gold Skolata will pop out a lot of the time, and you can get a gold Skolata. But you can buy these seeds, and I think it's actually in this area, or it's around this area, that you can buy the seeds as well, if I remember. And you can plant those seeds as a youth. And then when you are adult Link later in the game, there'll be a little plant that you can then jump on, and it will fly you around the area.
Yeah.
Save you some time.
Totally.
And that, in this area, will help you get those 2 hearts a lot easier. Which is, I didn't even use that for either of, I only got one of them, and I didn't use it for the one that I got. But I think you have to jump off of that flying plant while you're flying by a platform that has that heart, and that's the easiest way to get it. But
Yeah.
you took the hard route, the difficult route.
I took the difficult route. I took the hard route. It was very rewarding, I would say. I actually was very happy and pleased with myself when I got done. Probably took me 45 minutes, but it was worth it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we get into the Zora's domain. It's the water world. They're like kind of like walking fish people because they're bipedal. They definitely have like feet and arms like we do. But they are apparently able to breathe underwater, and they are master divers. There's like a diving mini game. I think that's how you get the gold scale, which I did not get. I know you can though.
Wait, you actually were able to complete the story without getting it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you get one upgrade, but there's like a further scale you can get where you can dive even deeper. I never got whatever the deepest diving one is that gets you to the bottom of that laboratory at Lake Hylia.
Interesting. You know what? I totally forgot you could actually get that upgrade to the upgrade.
Yeah. So I never got that because I was never able to dive to the bottom in that laboratory thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I got the first one. So yeah, you have like a little diving mini game, and you have to get that to progress through the game.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I should have been clearer when I said that. Did you beat the diving game in the laboratory?
Not this playthrough.
I was like, maybe I just did it wrong because I tried to beat it after as an adult, and I never was able to beat it. I'm pretty sure there's like another diving game you can go to. Maybe I just never really went to the Zora's domain after I kind of cleared them out as an adult, and maybe there was things I could have opened up and gotten the gold scale.
Yeah. I would say that whenever I'm playing this through in a more open, relaxed setting, I usually do a lot more of these side quests. And I did a good amount of them this time, but that was one I did not actually complete.
Fair, yeah. So I'm pretty sure there's like an upgrade to the upgrade for the scale.
Oh, yeah.
I'm almost positive, to be honest. So anyway, you get the scale, and then you can dive into this area within the Zora domain that takes you to Lake Hylia. That is where the fishing pond is at. We've already talked about that. We don't need to really go into more details other than you basically want to catch the biggest fish, and then it's on display. There's a sinking lure that helps you catch the biggest fish, though I did hook the biggest fish because they come up to bite every once in a while without the sinking lure. That's where the fishing pond is at. But anyway, at the Lake Hylia main lake, you find a letter from Princess Ruto stuck in you find a letter from Princess Ruto, I believe stuck in a bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
That says that she is stuck inside of Jabu Jabu's belly. You take this to the King of the Zoras, who moves so slow.
Yes, very slow. But it should be noted, in this note, it says, "Don't tell my father."
Yes, it specifically says, "Don't tell my father," and that is the first thing you do.
You are such a fucking narc. That's why you tell him. It's because Link is a fucking narc.
He is a narc.
Mm-hmm.
He had the courage to be a narc.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Totally.
No, that's lame. That's lame as fuck.
Well, okay.
That's the most shameful part of the whole game for Link.
Yeah, seriously. But the king of all these Zoras, he's fat as fuck, and he's sitting in the way. And so, what else are you gonna do but tell him, "Hey, look, your daughter's missing. get out of the way.
Yeah, and then they have a 15-second cutscene where he just
Wall up,
slowly
wall up,
shuffles
wall
away.
up. It takes forever.
It really does. I wrote that in my notes. I was like, oh my god, why does he take so damn long?
It was uncomfortably long.
Yeah, but anyway, you show him that note. He's worried about his daughter, who is a total pain in the ass, we'll come to find.
Mm-hmm.
But she is stuck inside of Jabu Jabu, the mythical, legendary Jabu Jabu, is this giant whalefish thing. And he lets you go visit Jabu Jabu. As a child, there's a secret in order to get into Jabu Jabu's belly.
Mm-hmm.
This took me forever to figure out as a child. I'm sure there's something in the game that tells you what you're supposed to do, but I could not figure it out as a child. I must have missed the hint. So tell us, Micah, how do you get into Jabu Jabu's belly?
So I want to say the only hint that I found for this a little bit is how much the Zoras will not stop going on and on and on about how tasty the fish are.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that you get into Jabu Jabu is you have to collect a fish into the bottle you now have as part of the quest line. If you did not actually get the other bottle, you now have at least one. Collect one fish, drop the fish in front of Jabu Jabu, who then inhales both the fish and Link.
Mm-hmm.
And then you are sucked into the internal cavities of Jabu Jabu himself.
It was such a harrowing experience trying to figure out how to get into him as a child that I remembered it immediately as an adult.
Yeah.
It stuck with me.
That was one thing that
decades.
did, I think, that was one thing that did actually stick with me as well. But that being said, I can see how that would be difficult to figure out as a kid. No one really makes it super obvious. But how do you get a fish to open his mouth? You give him a small fish.
Yeah, but in that time period of games, this was like a new concept that we would do things like this. There were weird environmental puzzles that we didn't quite have before, and I don't know.
At this point, you're kind of used to, yellow key opens the yellow door, red key opens the red door, not fish opens Jabu Jabu's mouth.
Yeah. So that was cool. It is cool. Cool design, though.
It is cool design. And this kind of stuff, I think, really did inform and open up gameplay for a whole host of, RPGs and other types of games as well.
Yeah. 100% agree.
100%.
100%. Okay, man. So we are inside of a giant fish belly. And this is, in some ways, the strangest dungeon in the whole game.
I would have to agree. I talk about this dungeon and think about this dungeon out of all the Zelda dungeons more than a lot of them, There are ones that I like more than this, but I think this is iconic because it was so fucking weird. You know
what dungeon I think about all the time, and I've only played this game one time, and I do not think it's one of the best Zeldas? Any idea? I don't even remember the specific name, but I can describe it.
This is probably something in Skyward Sword, I would assume.
Nope, I never beat Skyward Sword. That's probably my least favorite 3D Zelda.
Barely played it, but which one?
It's from Twilight Princess, and I think in some ways is a little bit underrated. It just wasn't what everybody wanted.
Yeah.
Wind Waker was fucking incredible. Super underrated, and then Twilight Princess, I don't know, it just didn't have the same magic. But there were some great moments in that game, and when you are in the mountains, the snowy mountains, with like the Yeti monster, there's a haunted house in the snowy mountains, and it's a very, very cool dungeon.
I honestly only vaguely remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, that dungeon, for whatever reason, has always stuck with me as being one of the very coolest dungeons. And it might suck, but the atmosphere or something about it resonated with me at the time, and I still think about that dungeon as one of my favorite Zelda dungeons.
Interesting. That's a game I've only ever played through one time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, interesting.
It's on the Switch. They did a remaster.
It's on the Switch now.
Oh, no, we talked about this on the show. They did it for the Wii, and they never brought it to the Switch.
Yeah, because I know there was the original release was between GameCube and Wii, right? So you could buy either. But the Wii version was better because you had the motion control and the upgraded sword attack and all that kind of stuff. But that being said, I think they did put it on the Wii U. Maybe? I'm not sure.
No, I know for sure it's on one of the last two Nintendo consoles. I think it's Wii U.
Okay.
Yeah.
They brought Wind Waker to the Wii U.
Yes.
Remastered. And I'm just waiting for them to do that for the Switch because, in all honesty, that is probably my second favorite Zelda game.
That's probably my third.
Wind Waker? It's just so good. And I know people hate on the cartoony side of, like, Fun Link. fuck them. That's Zelda as much as anything else is, you know? It might be a different style, it might be a little bit more goofy, but overall that game knows when to take it seriously and does so effectively. But it's a good game. It's just probably one of the more fun Zelda games that I've ever played.
So anyway, Jabu Jabu's Belly, it's a strange dungeon because it's like early 3D fleshy graphics.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of like the Doom episode. There's the fleshy walls. It's almost like they took that concept into a game that's a little bit
more fleshed out.
More fleshed out, exactly. A little bit newer,
Hell
a little
yeah.
bit more technology behind it. I honestly think the walls in this look like buttholes as well. Though they definitely didn't intend them to look like buttholes, and the Doom guys definitely intended those to look like vaginas or buttholes.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, it's a very cool design because you're inside of Jabu Jabu's belly, and so you're seeing like guts. You're inside of guts and a stomach and things like that. There's like tonsil enemies that you have to battle because you get the boomerang in this dungeon. Great weapon.
Love it.
Allows you to target things, then throw your boomerang and it shoots back at you. You can also like grab Skolatas off the wall and it'll bring back the actual Skolata token.
Yeah, which makes it way easier.
Mm-hmm.
Did you backtrack after you got that to be able to get the other Skolatas out of the dungeons you went to previously?
No, I did not.
I didn't either. The fire dungeon, I think there are at least 3 Skoltalas I knew you could not get without the boomerang, but I didn't fucking bother to go back.
Well, like I said, I looked up what the prizes were, and I'm just not the guy who like needs to collect 100 Skolatas. I didn't care. I wanted the useful shit, and then the rest I don't really care about.
Yeah, I feel you.
So,
but yeah, Lord Jabu Jabu, his insides, particularly on the old school N64 version, look kind of funny, a little funky. But it's also cool and super iconic, and it's one of the dungeons I think about all the time when I think about this game. I like it.
Yeah, it's a very unique design. It was kind of mind-blowing at the time.
Yeah. And also, like, I think they do a really good job of making this feel super organic and have different organic reasons. You're going through the internal organs of this fish, you know? So it's pretty funny and interesting the way that they choose to lock off certain areas, you know?
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah, and we have jellyfish creatures. We have bigger jellyfish creatures that blow up into the normal jellyfish. They're all electric. Yeah. Electricity is probably the theme of the enemies in this area. There are these electrical worm guys. I guess you could say they're like eels with like a claw face.
Yeah,
fly out
those
of the
guys are
ground.
strange.
They are strange, and all of these enemies get way easier once you get the boomerang. Before the boomerang, they're all kind of a pain in the ass. You can throw the Deku seeds at them, and they'll kind of
get stunned,
and you can kill them a lot easier.
But honestly, it's difficult. And half the time you actually defeat them, you have to just allow yourself to get shocked so you can get them out of the way.
Well, sometimes you just impatience will make you hit them because you're like, I don't care. I need to move.
Yeah, totally. My frustration with dealing with them was a little bit high. Once I got the boomerang, it got way easy, and then, you know, you sort of start to remember stuff, so I eventually got through without getting too emotionally distressed.
Yes. And let's be honest, if there's any frustration in this dungeon, it's Princess Ruto.
Yeah, she's frustrating. So she actually is an interesting part about this dungeon because, she, you know, sometimes you have a switch that you can stand on, but it requires that you have extra weight. So you have to be holding her as you do it. But half the time, you're carrying her around through the dungeon. She refuses to walk behind you or do anything. So you literally have to carry this self-important princess around.
Yeah, she's a total butthole. From the second you meet her, she's like, you need to carry me around. And you're like, what? Who? What? Why?
She's condescending as fuck. Anytime you leave her, she's like, how could you possibly leave me behind? It's so rude of you.
There was one time I just straight up threw her into one of those, like, sphincter holes that sucks you down to a level below. Just because, like, I'm so annoyed. And then it was extra annoying because then I had to, like,
go back and get her and travel all the way back up.
Oh, god damn it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the most annoying thing about this level is that there is some backtracking you have to do if you drop her at the wrong time. Things like that, you have to go back to the central room. Kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. A little bit of a pain. Luckily, though, this dungeon doesn't take too long. Once you sort of figure out the gist of how to solve different puzzles here, you start to do really well. Once you get the boomerang, everything is like fucking peachy keen.
It's a super small level or dungeon.
The mini boss in this level is actually pretty interesting. He's very much like Dodongo, King Dodongo, but he's a giant octopus.
Big Octo.
Yeah, and he sort of like shuffles around. You have to get behind him and to be able to hit him. He's not too difficult. He's a pretty fun mini boss. The main boss though is pretty difficult. He's sort of like a giant tentacle.
He's supposed to be a jellyfish because he's called a bioelectric anemone baronade, and I'm going to pronounce that word wrong.
Oh, I was thinking of something else actually, but
yeah. Now I will say with Big Octo, he might have been one of the most fleshed out mini bosses in the whole game.
Yeah, he was. He actually seemed to be like more important than every single other mini boss.
It was almost like a boss, and you beat him and then go straight to this baronade, who is the main boss. It's like I honestly think it's a very cool boss. It's a large jellyfish that has smaller jellyfish circling him. Yeah. He's not too hard if you're just hammering him with the boomerang, take them all out.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think about this guy?
He's pretty cool. Like you have to do a certain amount of crowd control getting those little guys out of the way.
Yeah.
Once you do, it's pretty standard. You just have to keep hitting him the right ways until he is donezo. But he's pretty fun. He's not too difficult. At this point, you sort of figured out how this stuff works anyway. The boomerang is obviously the weapon of choice here. As electric and jellyfish go hand in hand in this universe, so you don't want to touch them with your sword, which is made of metal.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep,
it's all about that boomerang. If you just keep whipping it around over and over and over, you're gonna take care of him with not too much effort.
Yeah,
but he can be very tricky at first when he's flying around with all of the different jellyfish.
Totally.
So yeah, you beat Baronade. And then Princess the Buttface says, what took you so long? She's a jerk. But she does give you the Spirit Stone, but there's a caveat.
Yeah, so she essentially lets you know that the Spirit Stone is the, for lack of a better word here, the engagement ring of her people, the royal lineage. And so she's like, yeah, I'll give it to you, but, we're engaged now, just so you know. So.
And they're like, I'm going to say nothing. I'm going to maintain my stoic personality. I'm going to take the stone with no intentions of marrying her and just leave.
None whatsoever.
None at all.
Which I think is funny because in Breath of the Wild, there's a little bit of a callback to this because the Zora woman who is important to Breath of the Wild was actually in love with Link. They were actually engaged, if I remember correctly.
Ooh,
yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
Hot, steamy Zora highly end romance in that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about alien love, so it's only natural that we would progress to Zoran love.
Of course.
Yeah. So that is the third Spirit Stone. We have them. We have all the Spirit Stones. We are at the point where we can open the door of time from what Zelda told us.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to wrap up in the childhood Link era before we have the climax, I guess, of the first half of the game?
No, like I was saying before, there's a bunch of stuff you can do for fun, but at this point, you probably, once you get all three stones, particularly if this is your first playthrough, you're like, you know what? Let's get back to business. Let's go see Zelda. That's all I feel about that one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's Skeletos you can track down. There's heart pieces. There's that mask shop. Very cool things with the mask shop. Random things like that you can do, but, this would be a 19-hour podcast if we went through everything.
Indeed.
So yeah, you go back to Hyrule Castle and you see Zelda on the back of a horse with Impa leading the horse and Zelda on the back, riding out of the drawbridge of Hyrule Town at a quick pace.
In a thunderstorm.
It's very, very dramatic. Very cool scene, and I think this is the scene that Link was dreaming about at the beginning of the game.
Yep, it turns out he was having a premonition of the future. This is the future he was seeing. Zelda running with Impa, looking scared, worried. As you walk up to the castle, it's thundering. The drawbridge goes down. They run out. You lock eyes with Zelda, and yeah, it's real. This is like the thing you saw before, and shit's going down. You just thought you were going to have a fun time sneaking back into the castle to go hang out with your buddy. Not the case.
Yeah. And so she throws something, too.
And it does not land near you. It lands in the water behind you.
Well, I mean, you try throwing something off the back of a moving horse, Micah.
Seriously, though. But yeah, they make their way out. Link's sort of sitting there stunned because he almost just got run over by his, new lady friend and her nanny on a horse. And who appears behind him but the evil Ganon himself.
The only good thing about him is his orange hair.
Yeah, his orange hair and his awesome nose.
It's big nose.
Yeah, it is. But Ganon, he appears there on the back of this black, evil-looking horse, asking you which way they got off to. Link, being the courageous idiot he is, pulls his sword instead of trying to play dumb. And Ganon's like, you know what? I appreciate how brave you are, kid, but here's a fucking lightning bolt. Bam.
Yeah.
Hits you and, runs off. He just tries to go find Zelda, and her nanny leaves you in the lurch.
Link could have just been like, they went that way and pointed the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Avoided a lightning bolt and sent him on the totally wrong path.
Seriously. But you know what? Link didn't do that.
He's got courage. He's got
Link's
courage.
Too courageous for his own fucking good.
Yeah. So then we go into the moat and we find what Zelda had thrown because it landed in the moat outside of Hyrule Town.
And what other item could this possibly be but the legendary Ocarina of Time?
It happened.
It happened. You get it. You got it. You're handling the famed little piece of royal musical equipment.
Have you ever bought an ocarina?
Yes.
I've wanted to my entire life.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's difficult to play.
I'm sure, but like, why haven't I bought one?
Because you're not a nerd.
You can get like a cheap one for like $5, but I want like a nicer one, not like a super expensive one, but one that could actually sound good.
Mm-hmm. I bought a glass ocarina, and it was difficult to play. Wasn't very cute. Didn't look like the Ocarina of Time, and it broke. And
oh, see, I want one that looks like the Ocarina of Time. I will put it on a bookshelf in a little stand.
That would be cool.
And I'll just play Zelda Lullaby on repeat.
Yep. I just want to play the Song of Storms.
That is one of my favorites, to be honest.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zelda, she threw her ocarina at you. Ganon shocked you and left you for dead. You're here. You have the ocarina in your hands. You now have all three of these delicious stones. What else would you do? But just go ahead and go to the fucking Temple of Time like you're instructed.
We were told earlier that's where to go once you get the stones. And so, yeah, we head into the Temple of the Time. And then we play the Song of Time. That's what I have written in my notes. Did we learn that because we put the stones down? I wasn't very specific in my notes.
I honestly don't really remember.
I feel like that's probably what happened because I don't think we knew the Song of Time yet.
Let me see real quick. Song of Time.
Yeah, because when you play the Song of Time, the doors open in the back that were previously hidden, where the Master Sword is hidden, which is very exciting. So you basically put these 3 stones on this pedestal, and they're there for the rest of the game at this point.
Oh, okay. You actually learn it telepathically from Zelda. That's right. I forgot about this. So I guess you get a telepathic message from Zelda telling you
That's right.
about the Song of Time, spiritual stones, how to open the door of time, and that's what happens.
Yes.
So, but what were you saying? I interrupted you.
No problem. We needed to know that. I mean, we have the
Important.
Song of Time now. We play it with the spirit stones on the pedestal inside of the Temple of Time.
Mm-hmm.
The previously hidden door opens, and then the Master Sword itself presents itself. And I always think getting the Master Sword in any Zelda is just one of the best things to do. Is there anything better than getting the Master Sword?
Probably not. They always set it up to be, it's always set up as being a very momentous occasion. It's always got a lot of fluff around it. It's always difficult to get there, and when you do, it's always a rewarding moment. But this is very nice because it's a whole entire temple built around the sword, which is sitting in the middle of a giant room, very much the focal point.
Yeah. So this pretty much is going to be the last thing we're going to talk about because this is entering into the second half of the game. It's really the longer half of the game, which I know we're almost at 3 freaking hours already. That's why we had to do this in 2 episodes.
Damn.
So we grab the Master Sword, and then Ganon himself says, "I knew you had the key. It's all because of you. Thanks, kid." He knew you were going to grab the Master Sword and open up the door of time, where he would be able to then conquer Hyrule and be the bad, evil man that Zelda had talked about earlier.
Yep, because where else are you going but the spiritual realm? Where else is the Triforce sealed but that same realm?
Mm-hmm.
How to get there if you're evil? Use the good people to do your work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Evil Ganon.
Yeah, so we are now in the Chamber of Sages in the Temple of Light, and I think this is probably where we'll cut off. You meet a man, and we'll go through what he tells you, but essentially, you wake up 7 years in the future as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're going to pick up in the next game, or the next episode.
Indeed, do. Tune in next time to hear the rest.
Yes, and before we close this out, though, we have to... I mean, my anus has been prepared for almost 3 hours now, so I have to go through these questions, sir.
Indeed. It wouldn't be an episode without them.
Yeah, and of course there's no summary because we haven't beaten the game yet. We'll do that next episode. So thank you for joining us so far through this first half of Ocarina of Time, one of the greatest games ever made. And now we hope you join us for a couple questions to send us out on this episode.
Hell yeah.
Micah, would you like to go first or second?
I'll go second.
Okay. Good. I wanted you to.
Hell yeah.
Rate the first 3 dungeons from least favorite to favorite. Dungeons. Not bosses, just dungeons.
So Lord Jabby Jabba, least favorite, but also like it. You know, it's a fun time. Second least favorite or favorite, depending on how you want to look at things positively or negatively, would definitely have to be the Dodongo's Cavern, and then Deku Tree, number 1 favorite, iconic.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I think all 3 are good. I don't think there's a bad one.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get past, even though you could argue Deku Tree is like the simplest, most basic one. It's just the most memorable.
It's also very fun because it's easy.
Yeah. So I'm the same order. Jabu Jabu, Dodongos, Deku Tree.
Hell yeah. Cool. Let me ask you a question here. What area that we've explored so far would Jono live in this universe?
I mean, I think this one's got to be pretty easy. Now, well, I guess it depends. Kokiri Forest was the initial gut reaction, but then I was thinking, Hyrule Town, everybody's literally dancing and smiling, having the best, and the Kokiri children look bored. I'm actually gonna go Hyrule Castle Town.
Cool. You know what? I said in all honesty, the forest. That's where I'd live. I'd go hang out with those school children who were playing the games.
Listen, I want to be in those back alleys with the bums, with all the freaking bottles around, which I never appreciated as a child playing the game, but they're clearly surrounded by alcoholic, empty bottles. So yeah, I'll go hang out with the cool people of Hyrule Town. Have a great time.
Hell yeah. Great answers.
What was the single best moment during the childhood phase of the game?
I mean, that's debatable, right? But I think one of my favorites...
Your favorite moment, I guess.
Probably one of my favorites. As a kid, I probably would have said that moment when you actually defeat Dodongo's Cavern, and the Gorons outside are like, "Oh, we love you so much, let us give you a hug." And you're like, "Ah!" and running away. Because it's funny. But I think actually my favorite moment is the moment when Soraya teaches you her song, and she's like, "I hope you'll think of me when you play this and come back and see me." Because it's a sad moment, Link's so awestruck by the sadness, he doesn't know what to say and just leaves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that moment probably.
That's true. I mean, there's a lot of great moments. I mean, going into Hyrule Field, everybody loves that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Just some of the goofy things that are happening, like you said, when he's running away from the Gorons, all the silly dialogue, the introduction of the Great Deku Tree. But for me, honestly, I went with the climax, when he sees the Master Sword, because I kind of forgot that when you play the Song of Time and you open up that wall, that's where the Master Sword was at. And I was like, oh, shit. The Master Sword, it always just gets me pumped up when you're going to get the Master Sword. You're going to have this new weapon. Getting a new weapon in any game is exciting. So
hell yeah.
That was mine.
Nice. Well, sweet. What's your favorite side character so far at this point in the game?
Ooh, that's tough. Because Saria is kind of my default because I didn't remember Darunia's name. I barely even remembered him until I replayed this game.
Mm-hmm.
But while playing it, super enjoyed him. So that was my gut, but I think I'm going to have to go with Saria.
That's actually very fair. I would say she's probably my favorite, but a close runner-up would either be Talon or Malon, Talon.
Yeah.
Either of those people, because they're just, good folk. They're good ranch folk.
Yeah.
Talon might kind of be a dumb dude, but he's a lovable dumb dude.
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
He's like your uncle that gets too drunk at the family gatherings, you know? You like him.
He's a fun guy.
Fun guy.
Now, if I were gonna, I feel like if I was gonna get married to somebody in the game, it'd be Malin.
That makes sense. She's a babe.
She just seems like a nice lady living a peaceful life.
Mm-hmm. She loves animals.
Loves animals. Gonna run a farm someday.
Hell yeah. Cool.
What is your favorite child Link weapon?
I think I like the boomerang the most, actually. You know, they're all really good. I really like using the slingshot for a lot of different things, but the boomerang is the most fun, I think, to use. It takes a little skill, a little effort, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah. I went with the slingshot. Now, my gut was going to be the boomerang. I feel like it moves a little goofy. It's kind of hard to aim the boomerang sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, because it goes at the weird angles, but boomerang is very cool, too.
Hell yeah. Solid. Jono, you have a tune in this game. In this world, you are one of the sages or something like that. Maybe you're just a dude, but you have a Jono theme song. What's it going to sound like?
It's going to be the Beastie Boys Brass Monkey.
Okay.
Bow, 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 bow. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. Brass Monkey.
I would say mine would be something simple, like all the classic Ocarina songs are. You know, simple melody, something catchy, but a wistful tune. Wistful.
I don't know why I went with Brass Monkey. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, it's great. That's a great casual good times guy Jono tune.
Yeah, I think I've had a couple beers, having a good time. We're at the end of this episode. Casual good times Jono came out there. No regrets.
Hell yeah.
Rank your favorite childhood bosses from least favorite to favorite. I like ranking. Lists are fun.
You do like ranking, and lists are indeed fun. So my favorite childhood bosses, least favorite to favorite. You've really only been given 3 at this
just
point.
3. It's
Yeah.
just 3.
I think I like King Dodongo the most. Goma would be second, and then Baronade would be third.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, but you know, the Baronade being my least favorite. I did that backwards again.
No, you did it fine because you verbalized it. Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It was totally opposite of you.
Oh, so you actually liked Baronade the most?
Baronade I thought was the coolest design, and then I like Goma purely because of the nostalgia, and I remember her.
Mm-hmm.
I for whatever reason I assume Goma's a lady because she's dropping eggs, and then yeah, Dodongo the most forgettable one for me. Baronade was just cool. I thought the design was very cool, and I thought the art was very cool. You know, I like underwater things too.
Yep.
I
just think that Dodongo is just the most memorable boss in the first part of the game for me.
Yeah,
for whatever reason, I just remember him the most.
No, that's fine. That's why games are great. We all have our own things. Like,
hell yeah.
We have totally different views on that.
Love it.
My favorite was your least favorite, and vice versa.
Vice versa. Okay, Jono, you're not a human in this universe. What creature are you?
The owl.
You're the owl?
Well, can I be a Zora? They're not a creature, are they?
No, you could be I'm into sentient, non-human individual.
Okay, then I'll be a Zora for sure.
Cool. I said Deku Tree.
You can't move though.
Yeah, but I get to oversee everything and use my magical powers for good.
Yeah, but you'll get to oversee that one little grove you're in, and then you literally just look at that your entire life.
I feel like the Deku Tree has powers of sight that go beyond his physical eyes.
Can he see through the fairies that he creates?
Maybe he can see through the roots that he shoots.
He loves shooting roots.
Who knows?
All right. You won me over a little bit there.
Okay.
I wasn't impressed
good.
at first. That's the big brain in the head of Mike. Okay, my last question for your prepared anus is rank. One more time. I got rankings here.
Rank.
My last question actually wasn't a ranking one. It was just what was your favorite boss? And then I turned it into a ranking one on the fly. And then I forgot that I had a third ranking one here. So
cool.
Rank the domains that you visit of the 3 areas. Similar to you already asked me this. So, Mike, I am out of questions.
Okay, I would definitely say, though, that I like the Kokiri Village, Zora's Domain second, and then, that will go to the Gorons, and then the humans would be the last one for me. Just to answer your question fully,
yeah, I know. Yes. It's just so similar to what you asked. Okay, so you said Kokiri Forest. Death Mountain.
No, Kokiri Forest, Zoras, then Death Mountain, then the humans. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I've just been a hypocrite because I said I would want to be a Zora, but then in domains I went Zora domain least, then Death Mountain, then Kokiri Forest. I didn't actually put the human one in here. Human one would probably be number one because I want to party with the people in.
Hell yeah, man! Listen to that human music.
I want to party with the people in Hyrule Town.
Hell yeah. Cool. Okay. This one's a little bit cheating because it has more to do with the second half, but we all know coming up we get Epona, the famous horse.
You call her Epona?
What do you call her?
Epona.
I think Epona is actually the way that you.
Who are you, Micah Thomas?
I don't know. A freak, as it turns out.
Freak.
Epona. Epona is actually the way that I've tried to switch over to say it, but I've always said Epona.
No, I respect. I respect your
Epona
pronunciation.
because it's pony. That's more correct. But okay, so you get a legendary horse of high quality.
Mm-hmm.
What's its name? What are you gonna name it? What name would you choose for a horse who's special?
Argo.
Argo?
That is the name of the horse in Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Cheater. I said.
Is that cheating?
No. I said.
What else am I supposed to make up a name?
No, Argo's great.
George. Rusty from the Seinfeld episode that he farts a lot when they're in the carriage. Rusty!
So I said Winchester. Because what a regal name. I've always wanted to name an animal Winchester, So.
Yeah, you got to look dapper, though, if you're riding a Winchester.
Winchester looks dapper. I probably don't look as dapper, though. Let's be real. And that's my last question for you, sir. There we go.
Well, okay. We are also looking dapper like Winchester as we close out this episode.
True as fuck.
I can't believe we're halfway through one game, and that was 3 hours.
Yeah, this is a long game, though.
It's a very long game. Is it the longest game we've played for the show? Chrono Trigger's up there.
Yeah, I think Chrono Trigger's longer, actually.
You think so?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. A Link to the Past was long, too. Let's be real.
I mean, Link to the Past is half the length of this game.
Probably.
I think you can, well, maybe not half. I think it's like 15 hours. This game is like a full 25 hours. But I was taking my time, too. So you can probably beat it quicker than that.
Yeah.
I was not rushing from place to place. All right. Well, cool, man. We no summary to go through just because we haven't talked about the whole game yet. So fantastic. Great discussion about the game, and I look forward to the second part.
Hell yeah. High fives all around. Catch the rest next week.
Adios.
Cheers. Hey, cool people. We just wanted to say a quick thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing with this podcast, spread the word.
And if you'd like to support future episodes, we've launched a Patreon. Head over to mediumretro.com or search for us on patreon.com to become a fan of our show. Your support is much appreciated.
Also, follow us on Twitter and Twitch at Medium Retro and at Instagram at Medium Retro Podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.